Whoops.
All right. Hello, YouTube.
I hope that made it.
Oh, look at that. Right on time. As I'll say, it feels like we're late.
Dude, because we were rushing our the end of our last episode.
The last episode. Dude, top 10s are hard. I feel like we hardly covered anything else except for the brackets of top 10. We still almost had no time.
Yeah.
Like, God, top 10s are tough with the timeline. But yeah, we are here for episode number 52 of Geekery Abides, where we are going to be talking the main topic, John Williams, as well as we got some news. So let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started. I feel good that we're not late at all. That's awesome. It's good to be right on time. All the way I was raised, if you're on time, you're late. So
if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late.
Yeah. So Vince Lombardi always said 15 minutes. So like the clock at Lambeau is set 15 minutes early. So
yeah,
that's great. Let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started.
He who is ashamed of his geekery has forgotten the face of Stan Lee.
This is the podcast, Geekery Abides.
Hello and welcome to Geekery Abides, episode 52, where we are talking John Williams and the main topic, and of course we'll have news and everything else as we always do. My name is Tad, and with me as always is Peter, and we are here for February.
Hey, finally.
Still doesn't fucking feel like February. I don't know why. It's just weird.
Yeah, we woke up this morning and we were just kind of like hanging out, me, my wife, and my daughter, and we're just like, oh yeah, we finally got through January. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, I woke up feeling like, God, I feel a little short for some reason. It's like, it's because it's February. It's God damn. But yeah, we're here for our first episode of February. Good stuff. Let's go ahead and dive on in. First up, if you want to email the show, you can send your emails to Tad at geekeryabides.com, TADD, or Peter at geekeryabides.com. Peter spelled as you would anywhere other than Moscow. And yeah, that's the way to email. We kind of separate the episodes half and half. Peter actually picked this one, which is kind of a surprise a little bit because like you would assume this is a Tad episode. But
well, I want to interview you. I want to talk to you about one of your all-time favorite things is music scores and stuff like that, and especially John Williams.
Yeah, and I also got to give a shout out here. I just got this shirt. I ordered it last week, and it was like saying that it would maybe get delivered either yesterday or today, and it didn't get delivered yesterday. And it was coming through the mail, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I hope it could get delivered."
Oh,
and
not the post office,
dude! It literally got here like within like 20 minutes of like between the shows. So it came just in the nick of time.
That's awesome. That's a great shirt.
Gotta love it. They actually have on TeePublic, they have this, but like for all different movies. Like they have the ones in like the Jurassic Park font and like, a bunch of different
You could
stuff.
just do like a John Williams week where you just wear a different music by John Williams.
Yeah. There's a great quote from Spielberg I'll have to share at some point, but I was hoping that'd be on a t-shirt, but it's actually not. And I'm like, maybe I need to get someone to design that for me and throw it up on TeePublic because
Hayden.
Yeah. I don't think Haydo's here. I think he said he had a jazz game. I may have given him a teaser on something in this episode.
How dare he?
But hey, he gets all the swanky seats because
his
his company used to have the naming rights to the place where the jazz plays. So they still have like swanky seats. So I'm not much of a basketball fan, but if I was going to go to some swanky like ground floor seats, I might say yes to that.
It's fun. I've never been like courtside, but I've been. I think the lowest I got was the 12th row.
Yeah.
My sister got tickets because she was buying a car from one of the previous players' car dealerships.
Oh.
And so they're like, "Here's tickets to tonight's game," and she's like, "I can't make it tonight." And so she called me, and I'm like, Yeah, let's go.
I want to sit in the seat where Shaq would have crushed me back in the day. Like that's
that almost happened a couple times.
I know. Imagine that giant freaking human being flying at you.
Good Lord.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump on over to, I think I got it. Yep, watching, reading, playing. I guess it's your episode, so you can.
I'll go first.
All right.
I'll go first this time. So watching, my wife and I finished Letterkenny. We watched the new Gabriel Iglesias special on Netflix. That stand-up comedian, Fluffy, so funny. We started watching Harley Quinn season 5 on Max.
Season 5? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ!
I mean, it only does like 10 to 12 episodes a season.
I thought it was like season maybe 2.
No,
or 3.
it's on season 5 now, sir. It's fucking hilarious.
Good
I will
Lord.
say. I said to my wife yesterday, we were watching the new episode. I'm like, oh my god! I just realized this is Batman meets South Park.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Like,
I think I saw something the other day where it was a clip from, I think it was a movie of some kind, but it was the kids. What are they called? Like Robin and a bunch
the
of
Bat Family,
No, it's like there's a ghost and some other shit.
Teen Titans.
Yeah, and it was like the end, and like Robin was trying to like give like the moral of the story, but
Yeah.
everyone's just like, "Shut up!" Like the credits need to roll, and like
Yeah.
credits, and he like jumps at the screen, and he's like, no, wait, yeah. He's like, all right, kids, ask your parents where babies come from, and then it cuts to credits. I wanted to send it to you and say, see, this is why crowbars happen.
Wrong Robin, but okay.
There's a lot of parents that wouldn't be happy about it.
And then I'm still watching What If season 3. Me and my wife were watching it. We got kind of bogged down, not liking it very much.
Yeah, I liked the first season, but I didn't realize till very recently I hadn't even watched the second season. Like I don't know.
There's a critique that I pointed out, and now me and my wife can't unsee it. Is the whole point of the show is what if, right?
Yeah.
They're not showing us what if. They're telling a story. They're saying, hey, here's this crazy scenario. Let's live a day in their life.
Yeah.
It's not, how did that change the universe? How did
Yeah.
that, maybe at the end of the season they'll do it. They'll bring it all together and everything like that. But
Yeah.
it's like, what if it was Black Panther who was taken instead of Star-Lord?
Yeah.
To become, the
Guardians, yeah.
Guardians, like, okay, yeah, that changes the universe. But
Yeah.
one of them that really kind of got to us was like, what if Howard the Duck and Darcy got married and had a kid? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was weird. So we're kind of struggling a little bit to get through it, but we've watched over half of this season, so
Yeah.
we're getting there. And then I'm still reading The Dark Tower. I am literally I think 20 minutes away from finishing book 6.
Yeah.
So I'm in that coda section where King's doing his
like diary.
artist diary, writer's diary. And then I'll finish book 7. That's next.
Yeah.
Playing Binding of Isaac Borderlands with 3 with my wife. I finally finished Red Dead Redemption 2.
Again.
I cannot believe, I'm ashamed, I completely forgot to kill Micah. Like, how does one forget that,
Yeah.
And then I've been playing the hell out of Subnautica. I finished the first Subnautica, then there's one called Subnautica Below Zero. And I will say this is the single greatest video game of all time because you can make a bioreactor and put baby penguin-type creatures into it as fuel. Which is one of the funnest things I've ever done in a video game, because you go and steal the babies, and then the parents get upset, and you just like grab them and it goes into their they go into your inventory. Then you go back to your base.
Yeah.
You go to the bioreactor, and you literally use them as fuel to power your base.
I remember a very upset penguin in Mario 64 when you
Exactly.
steal its baby. So
I'm sad though. I can't pick up the parents. I can only pick up the babies. So it's only the babies that I can biodegrade into fuel.
Oh, that's great. All right. So for me, I've got watching. It certainly hasn't been as much as it has been recently, but I've still watching Severance season 2. That's starting to cook, getting good. I did finish The Agency on Paramount Plus. That was pretty decent. I also went and saw Anora in theaters. That is one of the Best Picture nominees. And then I also watched Conclave on streaming, which is another Best Picture one. So I think where I stand now, I've got 5 of the 10 watched. So
Nice.
I might go tomorrow. There's one. They're playing another one that's getting a lot of hype at Regal, just theater right up the road here. The only downside to it is I believe it's like 3 hours and like some minutes.
Oh, we're talking like Lord of the Rings going on.
It's a long ass movie, but I've always want to get the idea. I've always had the idea to like watch all the Best Pictures,
Yeah.
whatever. But like I've never done it, and then they freaking extended it out to 10, and it makes it even harder. So
Yeah.
but I'm 5 out of 10 so far. So.
We'll be talking about Oscars later.
And then I also I've been kind of delving in my collection, getting stuff I haven't ever watched. I watched Captain Phillips on that for years.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Never watched that. Yeah, very, very frustrating. Something. Are you seeing?
No, we're good.
Okay, on my side it's showing an error has occurred.
No, we're still here.
Okay, that is strange. But yeah, it was very frustrating to watch though, because like nowadays, like there's armed people on these ships to repel pirates.
We've seen videos,
and
of
there's not that they don't even have a single firearm on the gun or on the ship, and I'm like, are you fucking? Nobody has a Glock. Like nobody has a personal carry firearm. Like just nothing. It was so frustrating.
It's an American ship, right?
I think it's a French company. It's over like the Horn of Africa, but like I mean it's an American person, so there's certainly some Americans there. So I'm like, can you go without a gun somewhere?
If there's
like,
6 Americans, one of them's bound to have a gun, right?
seriously.
Like, I mean,
yeah, seriously. And then I also found last weekend that Superman and Lois season 4, the final season, had dropped on HBO Max, so I watched that entire season. So
it's just Max now.
that it was good. Unfortunately, the reason I didn't watch it live is because at the tail end of the 3rd season was Lex Luthor building Doomsday.
Ooh.
And the last thing in the fucking planet I ever want to see is Superman's death again. It's kind of like Martha and
Why did you say that name?
yeah, it's like you're so tired you never want to see the fucking crime alley again ever.
No,
the
fucking pearls, man.
Yeah,
I swear they can do Crime Alley. Just leave the fucking pearls. Oh
yeah,
my
and
God.
I'm that way with Doomsday. It's like Superman Returns, the fucking Snyder shit, and then now this did it, and then there was the animated movie. They've done 2 animated movies now, I think, with Death of Superman. It's just
I think actually they just came out with a 3rd one.
It's one of the least interesting storylines for me. Like it's just not that interesting, and so that was one of the reasons I wasn't as prone to jumping into season 4. But they resolved it within 3 or 4 episodes out of the 10 episode series, and the rest of the series is pretty good. Bull from Band of Brothers plays Lex Luthor.
Bull.
So that's very interesting. I didn't like him as Lex overall. He did okay, but like probably one of my least favorite Lexes. He just doesn't vibe like Lex.
Ooh, I'm gonna go write that down.
What?
I'm gonna have you rank the Superman Lex Luthors.
That's
a little topic.
That could be
that's a popcorn.
That could be uncomfortable with one of the actors. And then I'm also watching American Primeval. I finally jumped into that, the new Netflix one. It was on one of my lists for the upcoming stuff for the year. It's on Netflix. I knew it was kind of a frontier type thing, and I could kind of heard some rumblings that it might be something to do with Mormonism. Episode 1 is the Mountain Meadows Massacre,
which is a huge thing for this state,
and it seems to be a very big driving thing for the whole show. And it's funny because I think somebody may have even mentioned that it had the Mountain Meadows Massacre, and then when I started watching it, it happened in the first episode. I'm like, wait, what? No, this can't be happening. Like I thought, like when they said like, oh, it's it pertains to the Mountain Meadows Massacre. I'm like, oh, okay, so it'll probably be the middle of the series or the end of the series.
Yeah,
like,
it's gonna be like the big thing, right?
Not episode 1.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good so far. Very brutal. I do want to say, maybe unrelated to this, of course it's not unrelated to this, we need more scalpings in movies.
Oh, no.
We don't see enough scalpings. And there was one person in this that may have survived.
The scalping? Oof. That's not a good way to live.
That's not fun.
No.
And then I'm reading The Two Towers still. The thing that's driving me nuts with this, I'm finally a little over halfway through. I finally joined Frodo and Sam because Tolkien split it to where you basically do the non-Frodo stuff. There's the entire first half of the book all the way through the end. Like, it's leading. I'm ready for Return of the King for all the other characters, but Frodo and Sam are still
just got across the river.
Yeah, pretty much. But the thing that's been driving me nuts is Andy Serkis does some voices a bit, like Pippin. There's nothing in the text that says Pippin should have like that accent.
Yeah.
But he does, because Andy Serkis is certainly letting the movies influence him a little
Yeah.
bit. He's not going like full ham, like trying to like impersonate these people, but there's like shades of the actors with the voices he does for each of the characters.
He sounds a little bit like Viggo Mortensen when he talks like Aragorn.
Yeah, and like Gimli and Gandalf are very distinct. But I've been wondering, like, when it gets to Smeagol, is he
just gonna be Smeagol?
Because it's him, right? So it's like he's got to do the full voice, right? Like I almost feel like I'll feel ripped off if he doesn't, if he just reads it like more straight. and not like in the voice, because it's like you're him. Like, just
You did this already. Do it again.
yeah. It's like, imagine James Earl Jones doing an audiobook for Star Wars and he sucks helium before the Vader scenes. Like, come on. And I'm just about there. But again, the way that it's split, it's taken me a book and a half before I'm finally going to get the reveal of how is Andy Serkis going to read.
How is he going to read Golem?
And then playing, I've only been playing 2 things. I haven't been gaming much, but MLB The Show, started that back up. I'm getting a little itchy for baseball season.
Pitchers and everyone report here soon.
Pretty quick, yeah. And then I also just bought the college football game. It was on sale, so bought that, and I played a couple games of that. So
I'm so jealous of you.
yeah, it's been fun. So
That's awesome.
yeah, let's go ahead and jump on over to the news.
News time.
Yeah, I also refreshed. Now it's showing fine over here, so that's great. I'm glad it
That's
didn't
good.
error out because we had an error issue on our.
Oh, real fast. My wife says she's watching
yeah.
Shorzy, Letterkenny, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Sanctity, Harley Quinn, Ghost. Oh, I have been watching Ghost too. I forgot that one. Reading it. How's that going, by the way, babe? How's
Piss off,
reading it?
Ghost.
Piss off, Ghost. He's fucking gone. Playing Binding of Isaac and Borderlands 3. And then she says shame. I'm assuming that's for the penguins in the bio.
Killing the penguins, yeah. One of my favorite things was there was a game like I think when you lived here, so it was a long time ago. But I downloaded the
demo.
And
I know exactly where this story is going
yeah,
because I have a fucking memory of it every year.
Yeah, you're like a kind of a goddish type thing.
Yeah.
And at one point you're clubbing seals. And then hippie elves appear on the horizon.
Why are you doing that, man?
Yeah, stop! You can't do that. And like, it's like, okay, first I was bludgeoning seals, which was fun,
And now I get to kill hippie
and
elves.
now hippie elves. So, and I mean, 1, hippies, but 2, I hate elves. They're the worst.
The best part is that Ted's playing this, and I'm literally in the other room. Because when we were living together, I was literally in the other room in the kitchen making food, and I just hear this, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what are you playing? And then he's like, it's a demo I found. I'm like, oh my God, this game was made for you.
Yeah, indeed. But jumping over to the news, though, we're going to start with Marvel. Most of it is rumors. But the first rumor is that Hugh is allegedly not hanging up the claws for a while.
Okay. Well,
So
until you're 90.
of course, most of us are pretty shocked when Hugh signed for Deadpool and Wolverine as with Logan, and then the way he talked in the press, it sounded like he was done with the character. Of course, most of us also presumed that he once they broke that seal, and now that he's in it, did Deadpool and Wolverine. A lot of us have assumed that Doomsday and Secret Wars, he's probably going to reprise the role there. But then from there, we've all kind of I've repeatedly said he's probably not going to be around long term. I remember saying Deadpool and Wolverine is probably a one-off. Then the Avengers movies, I'm like, okay, maybe those, but then they're going to probably recast or whatever. But apparently, that is not true. According to a leaker, Hugh is, quote, not even close to being done and intends to play the role for at least 10 more years.
Okay. That's closer to 90. I mean...
This is exciting news. I mean,
it's great.
If it turns out to be true,
yeah.
like,
if he wants to do it, I don't want to force him, kind of thing.
No, I do. Just, you no longer have freedom, Hugh. You are now Wolverine from forevermore.
Right.
So, yeah. So, I am really excited about this, and I'll also admit I'm wrong. I've been pretty much predicting for the longest time that would be very close ended on this, like, almost even like a redemption, where it's like after a lot of shenanigans with the character, some good, but it's also some bad, to finally get into the MCU realm. But it sounds like he likes what he's doing, so might be seeing him around for quite a while longer.
Good.
And then your wife says it's going good. I'm kind of mad, but I want to keep listening to it. I'm very intrigued. We don't have any Pennywise buttons on our.
It's true.
On our sound.
You'll float too. Well, we kind of separate Stephen King from Geekery Abides, so
Yeah, but Pennywise is beyond Stephen King.
That's true. He's part of the zeitgeist,
And he's eternal.
It's true.
So next up, and this is actually one of the news bits, but it is a sad one. Agatha All Along is finished.
One and done.
So legend Patti LuPone was on a Sirius XM show recently when she was talking about how she was sad back in the day when they were doing season 1, and Jack Schaefer told her that her character Lilia was about to die as the first season was playing out, and she told Jack that she was bummed, but she really wanted to do the second season. And then this is what Patti LuPone said. She said, quote, Schaefer said, I don't do second seasons. She said, they wanted me to do a second season of WandaVision, and I didn't, she said. There's too much to write, so she does one-offs, and I'm really hoping and pray that someday I get to work with her again because she's magic. So I don't think this was, like, supposed to necessarily be said, but it just sounds like Jack is not into doing sequels
Oh,
or
wow.
second seasons, I guess, not sequels. Because I would say that like Agatha's kind of a spiritual sequel to WandaVision, but it also sounds like Disney wanted or Marvel, Feige wanted a second season of WandaVision, which I'm intrigued. I would have loved that. But
That would have been interesting.
yeah, but apparently, which I don't care. I mean, there's going to be something that follows. It
Yeah.
is sad that we won't be seeing Lilia because she was an absolute gem
Yeah.
and a peach. So, yeah, that is sad news.
Wait, does that mean
overall.
I don't get Aubrey Plaza's death anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Because Deadpool needs to meet her.
And Thanos.
Both? Well, Thanos is dead, and he can stay there.
No one is dead except for Uncle Ben and I forget that Thomas Wayne and Martha. I almost said Ed Martha Kent. Thomas,
Why did you say that name?
Thomas Wayne is cheating on his wife with Martha Kent. What is?
Wait, what? Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
What's going on here? So yeah, let's go on over to the next one here. We've got a rumor on Shang-Chi and Doctor Strange 3. Some sequel updates allegedly. This is all rumor.
Wait, what happened to Shang-Chi 2? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Doctor Strange 3 and Shang-Chi 2.
Yeah.
That's what I said, isn't it?
No, you just said Shang-Chi and then Doctor Strange 3, so I was just...
Oh, with an upcoming Avengers film, not a lot has been said about some of these other films. They're kind of floating out there. But a leaker report recently said that both films are scheduled, or on the docket, and are allegedly being scheduled to film in 2026.
Okay.
Shang-Chi's director, Destin Daniel Cretton, is still attached to Shang-Chi 2, but he is also signed to do Spider-Man 4. So 2026 is most likely the earliest that he could even work on Shang-Chi 2. So
Okay, Dude, I was having a moment there for a second. I was like, fuck, it's been like 6 years since we got Shang-Chi. Why are we waiting so long for a damn sequel? We're going to have another couple years before we have more. Dude, it came out in 2021, and it's only 4 years old. It's not even 4 years old yet.
yeah,
Like,
feels
man.
like it though. But it's
I
that,
know, it feels like
it's that COVID timeline that
Yeah.
screwed us all up. Everything
It feels like it's been out for 5 or 6 years already. So,
yeah.
oh, okay.
And then Strange 3 is expected to be helmed by Sam Raimi. Nothing's been announced yet, but that's the rumor. Also, another part that was attached to this, there's a rumor that Marvel is developing a show called Strange Academy with Wong as Sorcerer Supreme, mentoring a new generation of sorcerers.
oh, if the
So-
chick from She-Hulk isn't in it, I'm going to be upset.
Yeah, I mean, a show with Wong and children, just teaching them the
Yeah.
mystic arts, like that
Well, I
sounds
mean, they
great.
have to. There's no one left. We need new recruits.
Damn you, Wanda.
God damn it, Wanda.
She killed everyone. Did she kill that cow dude?
Yes, she killed them all.
That's unfortunate. I liked it.
Every sorcerer in the world is dead except for 3 that I know of. Yes, Strange, Wong, and then I want to say Mordor, but that's not right.
Mordo.
Mordo.
Yeah.
I think those are the only 3 sorcerers that we know of that are still alive. Everyone else, dead.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I like that little scimitar guy.
Yeah, he's so cool.
He was great.
Stupid Wanda killing everyone.
What a villain.
I know.
Although that makes her sexier to me.
They should just leave her dead.
I mean, if she could just pop out of a mirror and just like do like the fucking contortionist shit, I'd be like, come on, Wanda.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. So next up, we've got an interesting one. Cumberbatch says that Strange will not be in Doomsday.
Really?
So he said that his character would not be in Doomsday because the character's arc doesn't align with that part of the story, but that he would be central to Secret Wars.
I wonder.
And he also-
oh my god!
and he
Has he already been taken to Secret Wars?
And he also said like, oh, is that a spoiler? Well, fuck it. So that was also a line that he said in
All
part.
right then.
The only caveat I have,
Okay.
we heard the same exact thing about Daredevil, and then a few weeks later, we hear that Daredevil is in fact actually going to be in them. I'm like, is this the new lie that Disney's or Marvel? I don't want. It's not Disney. It's Marvel. Has Marvel told everyone, oh, just say that you're not in it because your character has a different character arc that doesn't align with?
Yeah.
Is that just like the pat lie that everyone's going to be given to like say?
Here's your line when you go on interviews. Say this.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that like I'm counting on everyone in Doomsday, but it's weird to me that like we've heard this line almost exactly from Charlie
it was
Cox.
Like, it was almost word for word.
Exactly, and it was the same general idea, and it's like we're hearing the same line now, and then the Charlie Cox thing ended up collapsing where it's like, oh, actually no, he is going to be in the Avengers movie. So I'm just my ears are up. I'm like, I'm going to watch for this line from other people.
You got the little bit of X for doubt there going on.
Yeah, just strange because it's we're humans.
Yeah,
we
strange.
look
Yeah.
for patterns, and there's just a pattern I see here, and it didn't work out with Charlie Cox. I think it lasted one episode. The next episode we had was the new rumor that he's going to be in both the Avengers.
And they basically all but confirmed it too. It's
he did. He was at that convention.
Yeah, that's right.
Or no. It was the gym that leaked the shit.
Yeah.
Where it's like, Charlie and his wife have been training. Can't wait to see in the Avengers movies.
And Charlie went, fuck.
Oh, man. Do you think John Cena sees Charlie Cox and goes, you can't see me? Or is that just obvious?
I don't think John Cena actually says it. He just stands there and no one sees him.
Oh, that's true. Well, Charlie Cox sees no one. Right?
Yeah.
So, next up, we've got, make sure I was on the right one. The next rumor is the Watchers will be in both Avengers movies. Speaking of What If that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And not Watcher, Watchers. So more than one of them.
So the last episode that we watched, the Watcher that's been in the first two seasons.
Yeah, with Commissioner Gordon's voice.
Yeah, he got involved in a story.
Yeah.
And at the end of the episode, two Watchers were like, he's not supposed to do that. We're going to have to do what we do. What's that? Watch him. And it's like, oh, okay. So they introduced two new Watchers at the end of the episode. So
yeah. So the rumor is that multiple will appear. There's also a tangential rumor that Doctor Doom himself might be gunning for the power of the Watchers.
Oh, okay.
Which would not be unheard of.
That's not a good thing.
No, it wouldn't be a good thing, but it also seems right up Doom's alley to do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next up, in the realm of no shit Sherlock, the next rumor is that Fantastic Four will outshine the Avengers in Doomsday.
Yeah.
So the rumor is the first family of Marvel will take 100% center stage in Doomsday. This leaker specifically said that the heavy focus will be on the Fantastic Four, with the 616 Avengers in a more of a secondary role. I'm like, okay, imagine if it was like this giant Joker thing, and then saying that oh yeah, well Batman's going to be the central. It seems obvious to me. Duh.
Yeah, well, duh.
He's their villain. Nobody knows him more than they do. So
hey, we're gonna make a new Superman movie. We're gonna have a character named Lex Luthor in it.
Yeah.
Well, duh.
I am excited by this. I don't want to just completely shit on it because I am excited by the fact of the fact that it will be an Avengers movie, but the Fantastic Four is going to take a heavy role. That is pretty exciting because we still
Marvel's first family.
Yeah, we still haven't seen them, so I can't wait to see them here in the summer. But then to see them taking a big role in Doomsday, and I can't wait for all the Infinity War type stuff where you get characters that meet each other that whatever. Can't wait for Pedro Pascal to meet Doctor Strange or who some of these characters to meet each other is going to be really cool. So
Johnny Storm meeting Shang-Chi.
Yeah, Thing versus Wong or not versus but.
No, I think Thing meeting Spider-Man is gonna. So you crawl up walls.
Next up, we've got. We got a rumor that Peter is going to have a new love interest in Spider-Man 4.
Good.
So, the leaker says Spider-Man 4 will reportedly introduce a new love interest for Tom Holland's Peter Parker. MJ will, of course, be in the film. This kind of turned into a little kerfuffle online where people are like, oh my God, they're just going to completely abandon, MJ and Zendaya.
Yeah.
No, she's still in it. I will say this one doesn't super surprise me because I feel like some of the rumors we've been hearing about casting, there have been a lot of young female actors that have been rumored to be in this film.
He's going to be a young college-age student living in New York City. I mean,
yeah,
come on.
Yeah,
and also let's not mince it. Peter Parker is supposed to be a very attractive dude. He's a good guy and everything like that. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I just wonder if there's going to be a character named Ursula there.
I mean, Gwen Stacy.
We also got Gwen Stacy, who hasn't been introduced yet in the MCU.
Yeah, Black Cat as well is one. There's been some rumors off and on it that Black Cat might be involved, which would be.
God damn it! What's her name?
What?
The Black Cat. What's her?
I forget. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. Next up, we've got a rumor that Marvel has big plans for Ghost Rider. Because we talked about it in the last couple episodes that Ghost Rider, they're doing the
Felicia Hardy. Thank you.
Yeah, Felicia. Midnight Suns is a team that we talked about a few episodes ago that they're doing that includes Ghost Rider and a few other more like darker characters.
Yeah.
The rumor is here that no one has been cast as the new Ghost Rider yet, but he is set to appear in a few projects over the next 3 years, including Midnight Suns. So he's not just going to be like a one-off shot for Midnight Suns, but it sounds like he's got some other projects that he's going to be showing up in. So
who would you cast?
God, Norman Reedus was pushing hard for the role a couple years ago. I don't know if he's still interested.
Makes sense,
but,
right?
I mean, yeah,
he looks the part.
He was like openly like petitioning on social media for wanting the role.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah. Just off the top of my head, I haven't thought too deeply about it, but not Nicolas Cage.
It's just not Nick Cage.
It's all I would say.
I think they should just get Robert Downey Jr. to do it.
Yeah, no shit. Next up, we've got a rumor that Armor Wars is still in development. That was the originally a show that turned into a movie, and now it's been radio silent for a long time. But the rumor is that it is still in development, but apparently this new rumor is that it's potentially being reworked due to Secret Invasion not being received well.
Yeah.
So nobody knows if that means they're going to like retcon the Rhodey as a Skrull, or not. I don't know if they can go that far. That feels like there's certain things you can get away with, like retconning, but I don't know if you could retcon that big of a thing.
Yeah.
So, but either way, it sounds like they might be retooling because whatever their original plans were may have been heavily followed the Secret Invasion like style or whatever, and so with the not really being well loved by people, maybe they're jettisoning it and starting over. Next up, we got a rumor that Marvel is eyeing Ayo Edebiri for Storm. She is one of the main leads in The Bear. It's Ayoebiri or Edebiri. She does incredible in The Bear. I've watched all of The Bear up to this point. That once they put new episodes out, I'll watch the rest. But she does a great job in it. She's kind of like the level-headed one that's inserted into the whole chaos of this restaurant.
Yeah.
So she's great in The Bear. And that would also be our second Bear person in Marvel, because
the main guy isn't it?
No, the cousin is the Thing. I almost said gave credit to the lead, but he's Rhoda the Hutt in Star Wars. He was cast for Grogu in Mandalorian movies. So, but yeah, it'd be pretty cool. The Bear is obviously really successful and popular. So
yeah.
So in the realm of X-Men, another rumor, which is quite exciting. Apparently the Russos are sticking around after the Avengers.
Good.
The rumor is they are going to be helping shape the post-Secret Wars MCU, including the MCU X-Men.
All right.
So it's not clear if that means they're actually going to write and direct the X-Men film, the first X-Men film, or if they're going to be more high level. But either way, it sounds like they are back in the Marvel family, and not just because they kind of broke away after the Avengers movies previous.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they were doing their own thing. But even when they were still with Marvel before that breakup, they had always said the Secret Wars was like their main desire. They would love to do that more than anything. So bringing them back in kind of made sense, but I was always bracing for the idea of, did they only bring them back in for these two movies because they want to do Secret Wars? But it sounds like they might be sticking around more long term. So that would be pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, get them to write and direct the fucking X-Men movie, man. Hell yeah. Yes. I'll take that any day. Another a strange one. Jared Leto apparently is in talks for a Marvel role.
Really?
Despite his less than stellar record with comic book movies.
Yeah.
But I guess the rumor is essentially that he's not necessarily to blame for how movies are written that he was in previously. So he's not necessarily probably the reason that, like, Morbius, for instance, was terrible. So the rumor is it will not be Ghost Rider, though. That's one that people jumped on immediately. There are some people wondering if he might be one of the Watchers that were mentioned previously.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's we'll have to keep an eye on that. Okay, we're now to the Marvel realm now. Next up, Ted Lasso season 4 coming.
We had some hints about it, right?
Yeah, we had some hints. We had some people talking like they'd be open to it, but everyone seemed to say that like it all came down to Jason Sudeikis wanting to do it or not. He'd have to move he and his whole family to England to do it and stuff. And that was just a matter of would he be willing? And if he would, everyone else seems to be on board with it.
Yeah.
Well, Nick Mohammed, who played Nate in the show, recently posted recently posted on social media rescheduling some comedy shows due to scheduling conflicts. And he said he had, quote, some filming I have not been able to shift for love or money, he added. I can't say what the filming is, but it will be announced shortly. In the meantime, I'd really appreciate if people didn't speculate to what they think it might be. The last thing we want is for people to be going mad. So I read about this, and then I went and found the video on Instagram, I think. He's doing all this in a very high-pitched, like, funny voice. Mm-hmm. But then while he's doing it, he's got a ring light, and he's, like, holding it, and, like, between him and the camera. So you see his hand holding the damn camera, like, the ring light and stuff. Uh-huh. And he's doing this, like, high-pitched. So the whole thing's a joke. And then then he has, like, some papers he's, like, reading from, and then he, like, lifts it just high enough where you could see it, and the back of the stack of papers is the Believe poster.
Oh, so okay.
This
cheeky little bugger.
Yeah, this all, because when I first read it, I was just like, this doesn't seem like much, man. And then when I went and watched the video, I'm like, oh my god.
Oh, you're like that.
So,
okay.
So Ted Lasso season 4 might be filming this year.
Yeah?
So, because come on, man.
I mean,
if not, he is like a god level troll.
Oh yeah,
a god level troll.
Which I wouldn't put it past the person who played Nate.
Don't like Nate, huh?
No, I mean, do you?
He had his redemption.
No,
I actually didn't want him redeemed, but I actually kind of rolled with it.
Like oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought they did an okay job with like kind of having him lose everything in a way, and realize that everything that he had is all like it didn't help him. Right. Yeah. So then he chose the girl over all the glitz and glamour. Like it felt like that worked out a bit. So I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I know why you're booing him.
We're gonna have to talk Ted Lasso at some point.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
It's a great show.
All right. So next up, we've got The Odyssey, the Christopher Nolan movie. Yeah. Got a couple bits from that. First up, apparently Tom Holland is the lead in the movie.
All right. What mask are they putting on him?
No, Tom Holland.
Oh, Holland, not Hardy.
So back when we thought this was a vampire movie in the 20s, Matt Damon was cast, and it was said that it would be his first time starring in the Christopher Nolan movie. He's done tertiary roles for a lot of movies, but that apparently is all not true, because now this is per Deadline that Tom Holland is the lead of the film. So his role's not been named, but most people that know The Odyssey probably assume he's Odysseus.
Yeah,
would probably be the most obvious. Next up, we've added some actors as well. We added John Leguizamo to the cast, as well as John Bernthal.
Oh, Punisher
have both been added to the cast of the film. So Luigi and Punisher.
There we go.
He was the Luigi in that terrible.
Oh yeah,
terrible Mario.
I know.
He was also in Land of the Dead.
Land of the Dead.
Yeah,
yeah.
I like John Leguizamo. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Next up, remember last episode we were talking about a potential Jedi Knight returning in Ahsoka, one Ewan McGregor, and I mentioned that there would be one thing that I wouldn't necessarily count on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently I was wrong. Because the rumor is Natalie Portman is in talks to return for Ahsoka season 2. So that, because I remember saying the band would be back together. You'd have Ahsoka. They talked about they have the young Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Greenblatt, Adriana Greenblatt.
Yeah.
Has been confirmed to be returning. So I'm like, you got young her. You got Hayden's coming back. If you got Ewan McGregor coming back, I'm like, you have the band back together. I'm like, and then you mentioned something about 3PO, and I said R2, and you're like, yeah, you didn't mention 3PO. I'm like, yeah, because Padme wouldn't be there. I'm like, that's dreaming too much to think they'd actually get fucking Oscar-winning Natalie Portman to come back to Star Wars.
Yeah.
She hasn't been since 20 years. We're now in the 20-year realm since she's been in Star Wars.
Revenge of the Sith, and because she never did any voice work for like Rebels or anything like that, right?
No, she went on and started doing her Oscar type movies.
Yeah.
So, so the rumor is the entire band would be back together: Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and now Padme. The leaker said, "I got word that Filoni is really trying hard to get this one character back. I don't think it's a signed deal, but it's close, and it looks like in Ahsoka returning could be one Natalie Portman." So of course that means if she returns, C-3PO.
Yeah.
Which we've already seen in Ahsoka, actually.
It's true. He showed up and spoke on behalf of Leia.
Now, what I really want to see is R2 and Chopper together.
There might just be created a black hole in the center of the universe, and everything might just cease to exist.
They start comparing notes of who's killed more people. Like, if R2 can count droids from the Clone Wars, he's probably got a pretty decent kill count.
I mean, R2's got, what, 1 Death Star under his belt? That's more than Chopper has, so.
Oh, I love it. What was it when he just opened that fucking hangar? And
Oh,
just, like,
God, yeah.
hundreds of people just get sucked out of space.
And you're like, this is a kid's show.
So I'm excited. I really hope that happens. Now, the only thing would be missing would be Tim Morrison. But in my mind, if he came back to play a hobo 501st member for the Obi-Wan show, chances are they can probably rope him in to come back to play Rex here for this.
It's not like
right?
he has to go play Aquaman, Aquaman's dad anytime soon.
Too soon. He is quite a dad, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, Boba Fett, 200,000 soldiers with many more well on the way.
A million more well on the
and
way.
then Aquaman, like he's got a lot of kids. Good kids too. He's
Ewan McGregor coming back. That's awesome. After all.
That's fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I have to push it. At least once per episode.
one of these days, man.
You're not taking away my Obi-Wan button.
One of these
Can't.
days.
It's against the law.
Next up, now this is an interesting one. We've been hearing a lot of different Star Wars projects that have, whatever. We're kind of not holding our breath.
Yeah.
But this is a new piercing of a veil. We got some casting rumors.
Okay.
The first one is Ryan Gosling is in talks to star in the Sean Levy Star Wars film.
Nice.
Deadpool and Wolverine director. He's been in talks to be doing a Star Wars movie. I pretty much don't believe anything because we've had too many announcements or teases about things that never turned out to be. But casting rumors, that's kind of the next phase of like early production. So Levy previously said, quote, there's only so many times that Star Wars movies can revisit the same sections of the timeline. I don't want to do a Star Wars film that's redundant to others, nor am I interested in doing one that has to serve another movie. There is certainly the Force and a connection to something bigger than our individual selves in a way that we can make that can make us powerful. Those themes combined with visual delight and wish fulfillment, that is Star Wars to me. That is music to my ears. Let's quit just doing the same old things and connecting everything to the original trilogy. So I love the original trilogy, but that all sounds great. Ryan Gosling, I don't know if I've seen a shitload of his movies, but he seems like a pretty talented dude.
He is very talented.
And then next up,
He had a few really good movies over the last about 10 years.
yeah,
or
no,
so.
I think he was in Barbie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did good in Barbie. So next up, and this is one just for you, sir.
Just for me?
If I got there we go. The rumor is that Chris Pine is being eyed for a role in Rogue Squadron. Patty.
Don't give me hope.
Don't.
Again, the next
Dude,
layer.
casting rumors?
So the leaker said Chris Pine is being eyed for a lead in the new movie Star Wars Rogue Squadron that is back in development. Patty Jenkins, of course, worked with Pine in the Wonder Woman film. Essentially, she left Rogue Squadron because Wonder Woman 3 was on the docket, and it wasn't going to get done fast enough for her to do that. But then with the James Gunn takeover at DC, Wonder Woman ceased to be a thing, so she's now circling back with Lucasfilm and has restarted development. That's something we covered a few episodes back.
Yep.
But now we got a casting
And
rumor
that's why
again,
that button exists, is because that happened, and I'm like, I need that button.
Yeah. So, Chris Pine. That's not a bad person to add into Star Wars.
He would make an amazing fucking X-Wing pilot.
Yeah. I mean, he made a great pilot in Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Great pilot in Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed.
Great pilot in Unrailed, too.
In what?
Unrailed? The train movie where the train is...
I don't know if
Run
that's
away?
a pilot.
I mean...
It's an engineer. So next up,
Tomato.
this one is especially for you.
Uh-oh.
This is not a rumor. This is confirmed.
Gambit movie?
Robert Eggers' next film is Werewolf.
Motherfuck.
Just when you thought you were done with werewolves, sir, Robert Eggers, it just gave us Nosferatu and has done some incredible things. And it's
Is this
spelled...
supposed to be spelled that way?
Yep.
Okay, I was going to ask.
So it's a horror film of...
Hayden quote at the bottom.
That's what I sent to Hayden before the show, and he said he had a jazz game, so he couldn't watch. But
Oh.
so it's a horror film, of course. As for werewolf, the term originates from the Old English and Germanic folklore, referring to a human who can transform into a wolf or wolf-like creature. Rumors are the story will be set in the 13th century England with dialogue.
Oh, good Lord.
With dialogue true to that time period and subtitles for those unfamiliar with Old English.
How do you kill a werewolf if you don't have a silver bullet? Bullets haven't been invented yet.
I mean, maybe not in Europe. Chinese, I'm sure, were firing shit with
No,
gunpowder.
firing shit with gunpowder and bullets are very different things.
China's like way ahead of the rest
Yeah,
of the
but
world.
bullets though, like guns, like you what are you gonna do? Slingshot a ball of steel? A silver ball into his heart?
I don't know, but I mean, just with just think to yourself what we just saw with Nosferatu, and now just imagine that with a werewolf.
No. That's a no for me, dog.
Oh, it's a
no,
yes. There is no like, there's just certain things that you can't say no.
You know what,
to.
Ted?
Go to hell, Powers.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
No,
sir. It's gonna happen.
I'm out.
It's gonna happen.
Nope.
Honestly, you're doomed for every werewolf movie unless it's like terrible like that Purge one.
The werewolves.
That's the only ones you get. You're gonna dodge is ones that turns out so terrible that it's like I don't even want to waste money
even going to see it.
Instead, we'll just.
Well, it's a shame that all of them are terrible. We shouldn't waste money going to see it.
Robert Eggers hasn't made a stinker yet, sir. So. Next up, we've got the last bit of news here. What? And I titled this one "What the Fuck." Scream 7 adds.
Matthew Lillard. I saw one of these.
So Scream 7 has added 2 alumni. So the first, it was announced that Scott Foley was cast in Scream 7. Scott played Roman Bridger, the killer in Scream 3, and half-brother of Sidney.
Who
died. A person who is very much dead. Also a fucking legend because he's still the only singular Ghostface in the entire saga. So, badass motherfucker. There's a lot of kills in 3, too. When you go look at the kill counts, you're like, hey, all the rest of these are 2 and this one's 1. Like,
I mean, there's one of the Screams has like 3 people, 4 people, doesn't it?
yeah, there's
Multiples, yeah.
So, and then second, the next day it was announced that Matthew Lillard, who of course plays Stu Macher, and one of the 2 OG killers,
Who got shot in the head.
no.
No, that was
people have fan theory that he could still be alive because all that was happening to him was the TV got thrown on his head.
Yeah.
And like there's a thought that like
Okay, so he went into a coma.
that the fact that you got Roman that is 100% dead, there's some shenanigans up with this movie. I don't think that Stu's alive. I'm in the Scream fandom enough to know there's been people that have been fucking pounding that drum for 30 years almost.
What do you think of? Are you thinking like this is going to be like Nev Campbell is having to deal with her ghosts? Sydney's seeing the dead killers.
We've seen that before. We saw the one where she was seeing her mom. I forget which one that was, but also then we saw the ghost-ish of Billy in the last one, talking to the killer or the hero-ish type whatever.
Yeah.
Here's my theory. I think that we might be going back in time and seeing, because the Roman basically said that he basically turned Stu and Billy on to killing Maureen.
Right.
So he was kind of like almost a third
Maybe a
party.
flashback.
And so I'm wondering, are we going to get the flashback of like now we would need Skeet Ulrich to be cast as well to get the original trifecta.
The Billy, yeah.
Because the original 2 killers, then like they retconned Scream 3 to basically say that Roman was like this puppet master behind this of Billy and Stu. This is wild though. I mean, when I first saw this, I'm like, oh, and then also I've got to give some props to Matthew Lillard because his was not announced via news. His was announced on social media. Did you see this?
I did.
He literally posted an Instagram photo of him writing on a piece of paper, "My mom and dad are going to be so mad at me."
Yep.
Which is classic Stu line.
Dude,
so,
I saw this and I almost texted you and I'm like, no, we'll talk about it on the show in a couple days. Like, Matthew Lillard, like that blew my mind, and I'm like, oh no, he got shot in the head, but it was mixing him and Billy up.
Yeah, Billy.
So.
Billy's definitely, he got shot in the head and stuff. But again,
I mean, Roman's dead too.
Yeah,
though,
Roman's 100% dead. So that's why I'm like, I'm not going to believe like the whole Stu could have survived thing that people have been literally saying since Scream 1. You know, people have been saying that pretty much from the moment the credits rolled on Scream 1, people have been saying, well,
he might not be dead.
He could still be alive. Like, TVs are heavy, but is that really enough to kill someone?
I mean, he was electrocuted. His body was like jerking.
Yeah, and that's where that's why I've always argued is like that's not just the weight of the TV, which that's like a 300-pound TV
onto his face.
Not to mention the electricity. Like, that's he's dead. So and then again, Roman 100% though. That you can't even argue that he might be alive. So I think that it's either a flashback or it could be some kind of like ghosty type. I don't think it'll be like a possession type thing. But the way that the last movie did Billy. Having had Billy communing with someone in kind of a almost imagined way. Could be something like that.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if she finds out, because it's supposed to be like the cult of Ghostface, right?
Yeah.
It's like the rumors. I wouldn't be surprised if she finds out about this cult of Ghostface and she starts having like PTSD flashbacks, and all of the killers are just like constantly around her, like chatting her and and you know like.
Or what if we see that they set the cult of Ghostfaces up back in the fucking 90s?
There we go.
What if Roman, after getting Billy and Stu, and you get a scene with that, but then you go see him establish.
Yeah,
you see him establish like the foundation of the cult of Ghostface, if that turns out to truly be a thing. So
yeah. So have that, or then you have like you want to go off in Jason X territory and just have them be cloned.
Ghostface in space.
No, I'm just saying have them be cloned or something. You know, like they cloned them from their remains, and here's the son of Roman, and he looks exactly like him. You know. Or,
I will say the cult of Ghostface thing does give me Halloween 6 vibes.
Oh yeah, with the Curse of Michael Myers.
With the cult of Thorn and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I know it's a little bit different. But like I don't know, I have trust, and like Kevin Williamson's coming back. He's the original writer of Scary Movie, which was then retitled to Scream. Like so this is like outside of, I mean, he's more OG than Wes Craven because he's the dude that thought this movie up, the original, right? And then Wes signed on and directed the film for him, but it's like he's coming to like write and direct this, so it's like this is kind of like a, you know, prodigal son returning, and pretty much the most OG person outside of like Wes coming back from the dead that you could probably get. So I'm really excited for it. Of course, Sydney and Gail are back, and then allegedly Roman and Stu up to now. We'll see if Skeet Ulrich is potentially cast as well for Billy. It'd be really. I mean, I know he's already been returned once, but it'd be interesting if they didn't have him. But it's cool. I'm glad to see Matthew Lillard kind of having kind of a revival, because I feel like he disappeared there for a while. You know, the first it was the Five Nights at Freddy's. And then, you know, we've got Life of Chuck coming up with him in it this year.
He's been in a bunch of stuff. I saw a reel the other day where he's in a baseball movie with Clint Eastwood.
Oh, really?
I have no idea. What movie
I think I've seen that. I think I've seen that clip.
Like he kind of plays like a little bit of an asshole in the scene, so I'm just like, oh, hey, that's Matthew Lillard.
Yeah. Plus, he did the Scooby-Doo shit, right?
Yeah.
But that was just after Scream, but like a while back. Like that was like early 2000s.
There was a gap in the late 2000s to into the 2010s that he was.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah. So yeah, good stuff. That is it for the news, though. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the, if I got my pedal right, main topic. Which,
do we got a soundbite?
I don't. Dad. It's tough because when you get to music, you get dinged really quick on copyright stuff. So like having a clip of like a whatever, but it's like also how much can you like put before it becomes an issue? And it's like, can you really just use like 5 seconds of a John Williams theme? Like it just.
The problem is that they're so iconic that the algorithms pick them up a lot faster too. So
exactly.
I mean, we're going to be talking about John Williams, which is a huge thing for Tad. I mean, Tad loves, and I'll let him talk about it here in a second, but I wanted to do this one where I'm driving a little bit because I feel like you're going to geek out a little bit more, and so I kind of want to steer you into topics. But also one of the great things also is that I should have wrote down the title. There's a great documentary on John Williams on Disney Plus.
Yeah, which
kind of sparked this whole thing because you and Hayden were talking about it, and then also just as an added bonus for anyone who likes John Williams and likes the story of it, they also have one where John Williams in Tokyo, where
conducting.
he conducts,
and
everything. The documentary, I just looked it up. It came out last year. It's called Music by John Williams.
Yeah, which last year it came out like a month ago. Like
it came out in December.
Yeah, it's pretty new. So
brand new. Great documentary. I learned so much about John Williams that I never knew.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're just gonna go off of.
Tell me a bit about that. Like just your experience watching that. Like, because I feel like for me, like I know so much of the John Williams mythology that I feel like there wasn't much there that I didn't already know.
You're like yeah, I knew this.
You know,
like, I know that.
Yeah, it's just one of those things when you're kind of obsessed with something or someone, like, and then you watch like a documentary. Like, chances are it's not gonna like break new ground for you much. Like there was some cool like archival stuff of like, oh, here's him like showing Steven Spielberg the E.T. theme. Like there's some shit in there that was really cool, and it was cool to see him like talking to him and his kids. A
lot of the Spielberg home videos was really cool for me to see.
Yeah.
Where Spielberg was recording on like a home video camera and recording John conducting, doing the music for his films.
Yeah.
And there's one part where, to what you're talking about, what Williams got like nervous and flustered. It's like, man, this is so weird. It's like someone watching me in the shower, like
Yeah.
this is so weird. And Steven Spielberg is just there recording him, like
Yeah.
and everything. I actually did take down notes for some of my thoughts. One of the biggest things that I took down is that I never knew that he was in orchestras for movie scores before composing.
Being a composer.
Yeah, so that's a big thing, is like finding out that he played piano
Yeah.
in film orchestras
Yeah.
for movie scores. And I just wrote down some of the movies. They threw up posters for ones that he was the pianist in the
West Side
orchestra
Stories?
for. Not West Side Story. He helped compose that. Is what
The new one.
the new one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought the original he had some like instrumental part in.
Oh, did
like,
he?
Like no,
I missed
not,
that one.
not instrumental, like super important, but like,
Like,
he literally was,
literally
like,
playing an
playing an
instrument.
instrument on the original
The
West Side
ones
Story.
that I took down for when they were literally they were talking that he literally played the piano for these movies. I have some of these movies in my head like rent free, because To Kill a Mockingbird
Oh yeah.
is a huge one. South Pacific and Hatari are huge ones for me. Those are Hatari is a John Wayne movie. My mom loved this movie. I couldn't tell you the premise of it, except that there's baby elephants, and they use them to track down a girl who's trying to hide from John Wayne. Because the baby elephants are obsessed with her. And it's got this fun little music, and it's just like, of course, like, John Williams is involved with this. Like,
Yeah.
I know he didn't, like, compose it and everything like that.
Yeah.
But Breakfast at Tiffany's, the Pink Panther,
Yeah.
he played the piano for the Pink Panther films and
Yeah.
everything. And then the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Like, all of those ones, it just blew my mind that, oh, that's how he got his start.
Yeah.
Like, I've always just assumed that his big break came from Jaws.
Yeah.
Like he was a music composer for Hollywood, and it didn't register with me that Hollywood had already changed away from big orchestrated. They used a term
Like
where-
symphonic.
Symphonic, thank
Yeah.
you. Big symphonic scores for movies. They were doing a lot more
Like-
popular music
yeah,
and stuff like that.
bands
They
and
covered
stuff.
that at the beginning of the documentary.
Yeah.
After they talked about John Williams' upbringing, which his dad was a drummer, so it was really cool for him to talk about how he would listen to the radio and be like, listening to the beats
Yeah.
and trying to hear the drums. And that's how he started picking out like individual instruments and being like, oh, so that's what this does. And that's what this does. Oh, that's this transition. And that's that. It's like, oh, you could see how he became a composer, listening like that to music
Yeah.
while listening for his dad. But I just never realized that he was in bands, in orchestras, in symphonies,
Yeah.
kind of things. I always just assumed that he burst onto the scene writing, like kind of like they always joke about the I expected him to come out wearing glasses. Like, I
Yeah.
thought he was born that way.
Yeah.
I thought Williams was born with a baton in his hand, composing and conducting and stuff
He
like that.
probably still was.
I mean, probably. But even like how seamless it happened, how smooth it happened for him was fascinating to hear. Like, all of a sudden they're like, hey, we need you to conduct for the next couple hours. He's like, yeah, I can do that. Just like
Yeah.
seamlessly stepped into it and everything like that.
Yeah.
And he wrote for television. There's a bunch of different television shows. I didn't recognize any of them, so I didn't write them down.
Yeah, it was all pretty old stuff, like 50s, 60s.
But how he wanted to stay true to the symphonic and orchestra music in film and stuff like that, and the fact that that's exactly what Spielberg was thinking.
Yeah.
And that's how they came together.
Yeah, and he was a fan.
And
He was a fan of some of the work that because Spielberg's famously a very nerdy person for
Yes.
film scores. He always has been. He's kind of like me in that way, or I'm like him. He was one that would collect records of like
Yes.
film scores and stuff. And like so when he was like kind of coming on the scene, because I think he did John Williams did Sunset Boulevard, which is Spielberg's first big movie. I mean, he did
the Sugarland Express.
or Sugarland. What did I say?
Sunset Boulevard.
Sugarland Express. Yeah.
Yeah.
But because he did Duel, but that was like a TV movie, I think.
Yes.
And that wasn't John Williams, but like, yeah, Sugarland Express is like the.
I literally went to Steven Spielberg's Wikipedia and I copied down all of his films, and I put asterisks next to which one's John Williams.
Yeah.
composed the music for.
And that was the thing, is I don't remember if it was in that documentary, because I've seen so much shit over the years. It's hard for me to like discern what's in what.
Sure.
But basically, it was just like, as he was getting ready to do his first big movie, he's like, I love this dude. I wonder if I can get him to do like score my movie, type thing. And then like that's it's like that's John meets Paul, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's when the two Beatles meet. It's like in my mind, it's like the film version of that is when Spielberg meets John Williams, and,
right?
Because then it goes on to be super prolific. Obviously, was that in the documentary?
It was. Yes.
Okay.
They talked about how that. And then also like so let's keep going with Steven Spielberg films, because that's obviously a big part of John Williams. Is that in 1974 they did the Sugar Land Express came out. 1975 is Jaws, which obviously one of, if not the most recognizable themes in the history of cinema.
Yeah, even people that have never seen the movie.
No.
Yeah, I've noticed that when I've gone to like Mexico and been at resorts, and like the first time I went to Mexico, it was like a mixed resort that allowed children. Because I usually like to go to ones that don't have kids, because it's much better.
Yeah.
But I had one because it was a family wedding, so like there's a lot of people that had kids. So it was like a place like half the resort was adults only, the other half allowed children. And I remember going toward the side with the kids, because that's where all the restaurants were and shit. And I remember seeing like a 5-year-old maybe like in the water like humming the Jaws theme, and I'm like.
And this is what, like 5-6 years ago or so?
2017.
Oh, so about 8 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, and I look down, and I'm like, there is no chance on the fucking planet that kid even knows what he's humming. Like,
he knows that it's a shark.
He knows, like, he knows the association of that's a shark.
Yeah.
Music for a shark, but it's like that kid doesn't know Jaws. The kid's not seen Jaws. He's 5 years old, for God's sake. Like,
yeah, exactly.
But it's I just marveled at it, because I was like, whoa. It was like...
Yeah, and then there was a part where Steven Spielberg was talking about... Oh, no, maybe it was John was talking about that originally Spielberg... Because he did Sugar Land Express, and then Spielberg was talking to him about his next movie, which is Jaws, and he's already kind of working on it. And he said he wanted the music to be kind of like this jarring music from this movie called Images.
Yeah.
And it's just this, like... psycho-esque,
very
like
abrasive,
like put people
strings,
on edge kind of thing.
Abrasive strings, which is really famous in old horror, especially.
Yeah. And that's what Spielberg was talking about. He's like, I'm calling back to these horror films, and he listed a couple of them. And Williams is like, no.
Is that the one he laughed at, John?
Yes.
Or John gave him his idea, and he's like, Are you kidding me?
So he's like, no, you shouldn't do that. He's like, let me write it for you. And Spielberg was like, oh, yeah, yes, please.
Yeah.
And then a few days later, he's like, I got some stuff for you. Come on over. And Spielberg came over, and he played the da-dun, da-dun.
It's like only a, what?
2 notes.
Yeah, a couple
2
notes. Yeah.
That's da-dun, 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 da-dun. And then you get the and everything. And Spielberg literally laughed at him. And they were, and the two of them were standing there talking about it. And to hear Spielberg be like, I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't see what John was talking about. And then John talked about exactly how we all feel about Jaws. It's unseemly. It's scary.
It's lurking.
It's scarier when it's lurking. Exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I was going for instead of unseemly. He's like, it's scarier when you don't see the monster.
Yeah.
It's scarier when you
abrasive is in your face.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, a clown pops up in front of you. You know, like the Jaws theme is more like you hear like a growling in the fucking clear, or you're in a clearing and you hear like a growling from
in
the fucking
bushes.
Yeah, from the bushes,
and then,
like 50 yards away from you.
And then you're sitting there looking at those bushes and you hear a twig snap behind you.
Yeah.
But the music doesn't like
scarier.
But the music doesn't and everything like that. You build the tension, and he just did it. And they showed, I loved this about the documentary, is they showed the scenes without music.
Oh, yeah.
And then showed it with Williams' music. I can tell you right now, my very first note that I took down in all of this, I cannot imagine Jaws with that different music. And then to see it without music.
It's nonsense.
Oh, it's absolute tripe.
My absolute favorite is the throne room scene in A New Hope. Have you ever seen that one?
The throne room scene.
The medal ceremony.
Oh, really?
There's one online where they've dropped the music from that, and it's just
them walking up there and getting the.
Dude, it is one of the worst things you've ever seen, dude. It is just, it's uncomfortable. It's just it's awkward. it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's just like burn this film.
It's
like I don't ever want to see this again.
You could suddenly see why a lot of like the crew thought the movie was gonna flop, right?
Yeah.
Because there's all this like the crew is like almost turning on Lucas. Like you can kind of see it when you see that where you're like, oh my god, like I could see why people weren't necessarily.
I'll tell you right now,
this.
like one of the big ones that stuck out with me, and I didn't write this down, but it's sticking with me because I watched it recently. Is the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade one? They show him where he's running on the train and he gets tripped up. The guy grabs the pole and trips his
the
ankle.
opening scene,
and he lands on top, and then the rhino right up in between. They showed the scene with it, and I'm like, this is fucking terrible.
yeah.
Like, this is god awful. And then the music came on. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like bouncing in my seat, watching it and everything
Yeah.
like that. I'm like, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
Going back a little bit, I want to backtrack a little bit because I realized I forgot to ask you a question. So there's a lot of stuff that John Williams did before he got into music scores and even playing the piano for music scores and orchestras.
Yeah.
He did a lot of jazz music and everything. Have you gotten into any of his older music? Have you dived into any of that?
A little bit. I've actually done more of like he's written some like concertos and stuff post
music scores.
Yeah,
when he
like-
started his career as a music composer for films.
and he would do like because he
Yeah.
like when his wife passed away, he did a
Yes.
violin concerto I think for her because like violin was her favorite instrument and like that's
she asked him. They said it in the documentary. She asked him repeatedly to make a violin concerto, and he never did. And so, in honor of her, after she passed, within a few years, he made one.
Yeah.
So go on.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. So no, that's it. So like I've listened to some of those. There's a world class violinist that's on the scene now, and he's done a couple things with her. I remember he's done some concerts where like, you know.
She was in the documentary.
She was
Yeah.
like side by side with him. I know right around the time of the sequel trilogy era,
Yeah.
I remember there was like some stuff being dropped with like her, you know, and him like doing like collaborative
Yeah.
things. Like I've done more of that. I haven't necessarily gone back and found. It's actually kind of hard to find some of this stuff. Somewhere back here, I just recently.
Yeah, this is where you got your vinyls, right? Back here? Over your shoulder?
There's
okay.
one of those like boutique places that did a release of Sugarland Express.
Oh, okay.
And I bought that because it's like that's not on streaming, or I don't know if it wasn't when I bought it.
Like you mean like on Spotify? Like
yeah,
that?
it's not there. There's a lot of like old John Williams stuff that just doesn't exist largely. Like it's just kind of sad. But like I honestly even wonder how easy it would be to find any of that like jazz
gotcha.
stuff because it's just like there's even film stuff of his where it's like. It's unfindable. That's why I bought that. I mean, I think I paid like $30 for the damn CD, which seems crazy, but it's like, chances are, 10 years from now, like that will be out of print, and like I either buy it now and have it, or I'm never going to
Never gonna
experience
own it,
that
yeah.
music. So, because I've definitely thought over the years of like potentially just going through and trying to find like buy up physical media of everything of John Williams scores. Like I'm not a big music collector for physical media. I don't have room for a lot of physical media outside of my movies, so but that's one I've thought about because like you know I bought like the Star Wars extended soundtracks in 1997 where like they're insanely like they're a lot of people bitch because they're not necessarily mixed very well. They don't sound as good as some other recordings, but there's a lot more music there. Like they're double disc, they're huge, but those have been out of print for probably almost since the turn of the century, and like to this day like they've not remastered those. They don't have those on stream. Like those are out of print entirely. Like if I didn't have my CDs and have an MP3 that I ripped onto my computer of those, I wouldn't be able to listen to those. Like there's no so it's wild. I've actually wanted for years Disney would hopefully go and find those, remaster them and re-release them in a modern sense. And with that documentary, I'm like, please God, you guys understand
Give
this
me
is one
some
of the
more John Williams.
yeah, it's like we all need to respect like his stuff, and it's like a tragedy if any of his stuff is not accessible,
not preserved for history and everything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we have to remember is that this man holds the second most Oscar nominations in history.
next to Walt Disney.
57 for Walt Disney, 54 for him. I was honestly shocked. I'm going to talk about that now. We're going to transition into that. I'm honestly shocked, and I do hope that they save a lot of John Williams stuff. I didn't know that about some of his older stuff, that it's just harder to find and everything like that. That's fascinating.
I also bought Sugarland Express, the movie, too, after buying the soundtrack.
Awesome.
I'm like, I've never seen the movie. Maybe I'll buy that, too.
Before we dive into the Oscar stuff, I just want to put a cap on it. We mentioned his wife. His first wife, Barbara Ruick, passed away on March 3rd, 1974 from a cerebral hemorrhage at 41 years old while filming a movie in Reno. That's so tragic to lose a spouse that young. And he had to raise 3 kids and everything like that. In 1974, I mean, that's Sugarland Express time,
Yeah.
Jaws time, and everything like that.
Yeah.
And then just a short until Star Wars,
Yeah.
which obviously is the reason why. That's the reason why you love John Williams, right? Is Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a number of the foundational things of my childhood that involve John Williams. Indiana Jones is right in there too. But Star Wars is the main one. I mean, the first soundtrack I ever bought was Star Wars. It may have even been those 97 releases. I don't know.
Yeah, there was someone in the documentary. I don't remember which person it was, because there was a whole bunch of people talking about John Williams. You had J.J. Abrams, Seth MacFarlane, the lead singer of Coldplay. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, Chris Martin.
There was jazz musicians that they interviewed, directors and other composers and everything.
Yeah.
There was one of them who talked about how when Star Wars came out, how big of a hit it was. They decided to release it on 2 vinyls.
Yeah.
Is it still called 2 discs? Like,
Yeah.
two of them. It was a double, and they released it, and that's what they could do because they couldn't go back and see it again.
Yeah.
Like I just never thought about that. Like 1977, there's no home video.
Yeah.
There's no VHS.
Yeah,
That's not there yet.
So what my dad did is he, I think, snuck a tape recorder in and recorded A New Hope, like audio, and then just listened to the audio until the tape disintegrated.
Oh, wow.
But me, I did the same thing. Like those soundtracks I bought, like it was a matter of like I had a portable CD player, so it's like when we were going on road trips and shit, it's like, well, I can't watch Star Wars when I go.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't 2025. There's
no portable DVD player, no iPad.
Yeah, there's no DVDs at all.
Yeah,
Like,
DVDs didn't exist for another few years. Yeah.
So it was a thing for me where that's kind of where it probably started for me, was just buying those soundtracks so that I was able to basically listen and relive the films. You know, I remember driving to southern Utah with my family, and I remember being in the back seat, like listening to those, swapping the discs out, listening through the entire trilogy and stuff, and it's like, yeah, like I'm reliving the film. Like I get chills when I hit certain spots, like, because it's like,
this is that part,
and it's like the music's powerful, but it's also like the memory association of like, you know, like you remember that moment, and like between the moment and the music, like it gives you chills. Like you don't need to see the film for that.
Okay.
It's all memory.
So I mean, we're talking about it. And I'm going to get back on track here. Oscar nominations. This is insane to me.
Yeah.
That the man has 54 Oscar nominations. I'm like, oh, he's probably won like 30 or 40.
Yeah.
He's won 5.
5, yeah.
5.
Yeah.
That's it?
One of my favorites was 77 was he was nominated against himself.
Was he really?
Star Wars and Close Encounters of the Third Kind were both that year.
They were both that year?
And he was nominated for an Oscar for both. So like,
interesting.
When they see like the Oscar, like if you could find the video of it, it's like John Williams for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, John Williams for Star Wars. Like,
yeah.
It's like,
so he won 5, and the 5 that he's won for, the most recent one that he's won, so he hasn't won since Schindler's List in 1994.
Yeah.
E.T., Star Wars, Jaws, and then I wanted to talk to you about this. It says Fiddler on the Roof, and it says original score song. But it doesn't say, like, original score. It says original score song. Do you have any idea what that means? I didn't look it up. I was just wanting to see if you knew.
No, not off the top of my head, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that, like, because like for instance, he's written like he wrote a theme for Solo, not the whole score, but he wrote the solo theme. And I want to say he did another one recently, but it's like it's very limited. It's not the whole score. So maybe it's something
he was a
like
consultant on West Side Story. You were right about that earlier. So.
Yeah. No, the Oscars though. Yeah, no, he certainly hasn't won nearly enough.
I just made a quick list of ones in my head that I can't believe that he didn't win for these.
Yeah.
And that's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I've never seen the film.
Yeah, but he won for Star Wars. So there's almost no way for him to
win.
win.
So that makes sense for that one. So
yeah.
I'll delete that one off my list. But how does this man not win an Oscar for any of the Indiana Jones?
Yeah. Superman.
That's the next one on my list, you psychic bitch.
I've said, like, outside of Siegel and Schuster, like, I think that the most iconic thing that those two dudes didn't do that belongs to Superman is the John Williams theme.
Exactly.
Like, it's just...
he didn't win an Oscar for Empire Strikes Back, which many people would consider far superior music-wise. At least has one of the most... if we're going to talk about Dun Dun with Jaws... We're going to talk about the Imperial March with Empire.
Yeah, but the problem is you got to give the main title to A New Hope.
You do, but still, how does Empire and Return of the Jedi, neither one of those wins an Oscar? Like
Yeah.
that to me, that's just what
Yeah.
kind of thing. And then the two, not modern, but two '90s ones that are just unbelievable.
90s is almost 30 years ago.
I mean, I know
modern.
I know, but
I needed to stab you with
we're
that.
talking about something that's 20 years removed from the '70s when we're talking about these other movies. But Home Alone
Yeah.
didn't win an Oscar.
Yeah. I always tell people it's my favorite Christmas album.
It's so good
Because it's
And-
just John Williams Christmas.
and it's one of those things where like they were talking about it in the documentary. It's like how this movie was nothing and everything. And then tell me,
Did they tell the story to Chris Columbus about how they basically were joking about hiring John Williams?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. As let's say,
Yeah.
because that's a famous story, and I'm like, I
But-
forget what, because I know so much of this, and I forget what's
you
in the
forget
doc.
what's in this documentary, what's in the other
You
stuff.
threw it out
that
as
you
a
watched.
joke, and then like someone that was like in the room knew someone that knew John, and it just like kind of like
They mentioned it to John's agent,
yeah,
is what they said.
because it was like
And
somebody.
then the agent reached out to Chris Columbus and was like, "Yeah, John's interested," and he's like, "Wait, what? I was kidding." Like
Yeah.
that's how that kind of happened, from what I remember.
Yeah, it was like if I remember, it was like a technician was like related to John's agent, and like he was
Yeah.
in the room and heard it, and
And
just
so he mentioned it to John's agent, and then he went to John and was like, "Hey, you want to do this Christmas movie?" Da, 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 da. And he's like, "Yeah, that sounds fun. Yeah, let's do it." And so then the agent reached out to Chris Columbus, and Chris Columbus was like, "Wait, what?"
yeah,
But no, the other thing about Home Alone I want to talk about, and this was not in the documentary, this is something I learned from you within the last about, I'd say 2-3 months. Tell me about the background music in Home Alone. Do you remember telling me about that?
the background music,
Like the grocery stores playing.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
So when they were having him score Home Alone, they
Yeah.
basically not only did he do the normal score, but they were like, well, we're going to need a bunch of Christmas music,
Right.
So do we license recordings of previously existing of all these Christmas classics? And someone's like, well, no, you've got the greatest composer.
You literally
in
have
film history.
John Williams,
So-
like on your shirt.
So the idea was essentially like, well, it'll be cheaper because he's already working for us to have him do it all, because then we own those recordings rather than
Yeah.
having to get licensing for the other stuff. And so they basically had John do a bunch of like Christmas classic fucking shit, and then there was no place for it in the movie. It wouldn't fit in the movie, so they just basically inserted it to where like when you hear Christmas music on the radio in the store, like
when Kevin goes to do grocery shopping,
yeah,
there's a Christmas song playing over the speakers,
over the PA.
and everyone's like, "Oh, this is a Christmas song."
Yeah.
No one realizes that's an original John Williams Christmas song.
I
Like,
mean, he didn't write it. It was like a lot of times they're like Christmas classic songs that you've heard before.
That he
But-
he
but he-
composed a new version of
Yeah,
it. Okay, I understand.
he recorded, but because like all those are like what do you call it? Public domain. Like
where no one owns them. Yeah.
nobody owns like the actual like lyrics and music, but they own the recording. Like if the London Philharmonic
Right.
records
Okay.
it, and, like you can't then use it on this podcast and say, well, it's public domain. No. The music is, but
Their version of
the
it.
recording that the London Symphony Orchestra recorded, they own the copyright on that. So it's kind of a weird double thing, but like that was their premise. Is they're like, well, we can go pay a bunch of musicians that have already done this shit, or we could just have John Williams do it. So it's
and
not
he's already got an orchestra here, so
yeah, exactly. And that's the great thing too, is John always does a full orchestra for the most part. I also love that he still works with pen and pencil. He doesn't like
he
use
does everything by
computers.
hand. He talked about it, how he didn't like the electronic process.
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly what he said, but he talked about how much faster it is and everything like that. He's like, but I feel like I get it right.
Yeah.
And that's just fascinating to see.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The other one that I was going to say was a travesty that didn't win was Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, that's a big one. Jurassic Park.
Okay. Let's talk about Jurassic Park. I assume you know this, that Jurassic Park was not even nominated for Best Score.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
I don't recall.
The studio had a mix-up with the distributor. Each thought the other one was supposed to submit the nomination. So by the time they realized their mistake,
it was too late.
it was too late, and the Academy would not make an exception. So, if you look at it, he won for Schindler's List.
I guess it was the same year.
It
so
was the
doesn't
same
matter.
year, so it doesn't matter. He would have still gone against.
There's no
himself.
way Jurassic Park was going to win.
I was
over
going to ask you,
Schindler's
do you
List.
think
No,
that Jurassic
fuck
Park would have
no.
beat Schindler's List?
Absolutely
Okay.
not. Schindler's List is one of the finest film scores the history of film.
I will
There's-
say I did not expect this, and I'm probably gonna get a little teary eyed right here, but I did not expect it that when they started talking about Schindler's List, because that movie hits hard.
Oh yeah.
And it hits me, like it's such a tragedy and everything like
Yeah.
that, and so brutal, and it's so unforgiving the way
Yeah.
that Spielberg made it so in your face and everything. But that music, dude, they were showing it in the documentary, and
They showed like Spielberg and his wife listening to the first thing,
and
right?
yeah, they didn't show it. Spielberg talked about it.
Oh, because I
They
swear
don't have
there's
it on-
video because I remember seeing like Spielberg and like Willie from the second Indiana Jones as his wife, like teary eyed and shit. So I've seen footage of
They
it.
interviewed her and they interviewed Spielberg, but they were separate.
Oh, okay.
They interviewed her, and she's like, she told the story about how John called Steven and said, "Hey, I have some ready for Schindler's List. Do you want to come over and hear it?" He's like, "Yeah, can I bring my wife?" And he said, "Of course." And
Yeah.
they're good friends. They've been friends for 20-something years now.
Yeah.
In the 90s, when they're doing this. And so Steven and his wife come over, and Steven picks up the story here and says that John starts playing on the piano, and within 5 minutes his wife is crying.
Yeah.
Within 9 minutes Steven's crying.
Yeah.
And John was within a couple minutes after that. All three of them were crying, and John just kept playing.
Yeah. No, it's
And that just hearing that violin
yeah.
from Schindler's List. It's I didn't realize it, but it's ingrained in me that when I hear that violin, I'm going to think about the Holocaust, and I'm going
Yeah.
to think about all the terribleness that happened with it.
Yeah.
Because not only do I think about Schindler's List, I think about everything that I've learned.
Yeah.
Because I'm fascinated with World War II.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite history topics. We're both fans of history and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so that's where like I go to a really dark place, because like I read this book, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. I also read History of Concentration Camps.
Yeah, I think I turned you on to
You
that one.
turned
I
me
still
on-
haven't even purchased it because I'm like,
Dude.
that's like a 25-hour book. I'm like,
It's a 25-hour book, and it's just punch after
Yeah.
punch after punch.
and that's why I'm like, and that's the only reason it's still on my wish list because I'm like, one of these days I'll purchase it, but it's like, I gotta be in a mood where I can handle 25 hours of that.
of just the worst, detestable things that one group of humans has done to another over the span of 6 years.
Yeah,
And that, I mean, it's actually longer than that, because like the history of the concentration camp, a lot of people don't realize it goes back into the 20s.
yeah,
Like before the Nazi Party, like Germany had concentration camps for political dissidents back, I think as early as 1927,
yeah,
if memory serves. Sorry if I get the year wrong.
yeah,
Germany. But to hear that violin, just to call up all that nastiness and everything like that, I was honestly shocked how much I was affected by it.
yeah,
I've watched Schindler's List maybe 4 or 5 times in my entire life,
yeah.
and each time I have to like prep myself
Oh
for
yeah,
it
yeah,
and everything, and be ready that okay, I'm gonna be sad the rest of the day.
yeah,
Like I want to be sad. Like sometimes that happens. You're like, I want
Yeah.
a sad movie, and okay, Schindler's List. That's the saddest one I know.
Yeah. Doesn't get
I don't know much sadder.
no.
And so, just that violin, and they talked about how he wrote it with at the time, the world's greatest violin, and they had him on, and he talked about it, how much it meant to him.
Yeah, yeah,
And to lighten the mood a little bit, that violinist told the story of he had worked with John for years,
yeah,
because he was in one of the orchestras,
yeah.
and he's like, "Well, when are you going to do something for just me? Like for
Yeah,
like
because
what's it called? It's not a solo.
John's probably most known for like his brass, like like the brass, like trumpets or yeah, like most of his stuff is way more like big and bombastic. So it's like your strings are never gonna like they're a big
Yeah.
part of it, but it's like they're not the center stage. Like
Right.
they're just part of the group, whereas like it's the fucking brass that's blowing out the Star Wars theme, the Superman, like it's just
You got the Superman theme, you got the Star Wars theme, you got the Indiana Jones
like,
theme.
yeah.
All of those are big brass themes.
I mean Jaws.
Jaws.
When it's executed in the
Yep.
film, that's brass. Like he's a brass, aficionado.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I remember that where he's just like, dude, at what point are you gonna like put some string up
I
front.
mean, he's like seriously, like write something for me. It's called a concerto for like.
No, that
where
means
you have-
I think that means it's only like a violin concerto means it's just a violin. It's not the whole orchestra.
Well, no, because the violin concerto that he did with his wife has the whole orchestra supporting it, but then it stops and then you have the violin part.
Yeah.
So it's like part of the song, right?
Yeah.
I'm not that big into music, so
Yeah.
obviously, but that's because they showed that part with the one that he wrote for his wife.
Yeah.
His late wife and everything. So, and then they showed him doing the stuff for Schindler's List, and he was saying, he told the funny story where he had been harping, John for a decade, like, when are you going to do something for just me? Like,
Yeah.
and John's like, oh, I'll find something. Like, well, not just me, but he was talking about a movie score.
Yeah.
He's like, I want, me in a movie score. I want, to be me with like a solo. And John's like, don't worry, I'll find something. And then he calls him. He's like, hey, I got it. I got a movie for you.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'll think about it. And then he gets off the phone and his wife's like, what was that? And he's like, oh, that's John Williams asking me to do a solo in one of his movies. And she's like, and you told him you'd think about it? And he's like, I called him back the next day, and luckily he still wanted me. It's like, come on, man. Don't.
Did the documentary talk about him getting hired for Schindler's List?
A little bit, but I didn't.
There's a famous exchange. I've heard it from both guys, but basically, like,
Okay.
first cut of the film, Spielberg, of course, brings John in. They watch it and come out of it and stuff, and it's like, John's like, I can't do this.
Oh, yeah. He says you need a better.
Yeah,
you need a better composer.
Yeah, you need a better composer for this movie. He's like, I know,
And-
but they're all dead.
Yeah, Steven said, I know. They're all dead. Beethoven, Bach,
Yeah.
all those guys is what he's
Yeah.
talking about. Mozart.
That's one of the and I've heard that story from both guys over the years, and it's funny. Like,
I think actually the person who told it in the documentary, I think it was Spielberg,
yeah,
is the one who told it. He's like, yeah, but then I told him, yeah, well, of course, but they're all dead.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I did not know that Spielberg is the reason that we have John Williams' Star Wars.
yeah. I mean, honestly, like, because again, you alluded to it earlier. Like, film had moved on. Like, symphonic was not at all popular anymore. Lucas and Spielberg were both guys that were very out of their time a little bit. Like, both of them loved like the shit they grew up on that was more symphonic.
Right.
And so as they were becoming filmmakers, like, well, I don't want to fucking use bands and like popular music. Like, I want like what I grew up on, and like, but they were like far and away the outliers. So it's like, and like, yeah, Spielberg's like such a nerd that he already knew, like, I know this guy Johnny Williams that has done a couple things for whatever, like, and I wonder if I can get him. And then he has a relationship for a couple years before Lucas gets Star Wars and stuff.
Yeah. But the story that they told in the documentary, and it was Spielberg who told it, was Spielberg and John told it together. I think it's one of those rare ones where the two of them were together for it. That John was actually considering doing the movie A Bridge Too Far.
Yeah.
Instead of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because what happened was what you're talking about is Spielberg and Lucas were both big fans of symphonic scores. And Lucas came to Spielberg and said, yeah, I'm going to do a symphonic score. And he goes, I got the guy for you. John Williams. You need to hire John Williams.
Yeah.
And so they talked, and him and Lucas talked, and he's like, oh, yeah, I met Lucas. I didn't know him. I'd never seen American Graffiti. I don't go to movie theaters and see movies.
Yeah.
Which blew my mind. I think I said that on the other podcast, but I'm going to say it here. Kind of blew my mind that Williams wouldn't go to movies, but then I'm like,
which Lucas used bands in American Graffiti too. Like, that was like all 50s music, right? So it's kind of funny because it's like, Lucas more as a symphonic guy, but when you look at American Graffiti, you're like,
that's not symphonic. Yeah.
That was more of what it looked like. So.
What Williams was kind of going against the grain with was what Hollywood was doing, was bands and stuff like that. So when we say bands, we're talking like, for a very famous,
the Rolling Stones, the
Rolling
Beatles,
Stones
like,
and stuff like that.
Led Zeppelin, like putting like popular music that's on the charts in your movie. Like, that was like,
that's where it really started taking off. Was the late 50s, early all through the 60s and into the 70s was really bad.
Yeah,
and that's where Williams started composing, was in the 70s. Well, like we talked about 1974 for Sugar.
And he kind of felt like a relic.
Yeah,
until like, in terms of like, oh, you're just kind of this dead end thing that like, no, people don't want that anymore. But then Spielberg and then eventually Lucas kind of
Yeah, so
because like today, you wouldn't have Hans Zimmer, you wouldn't have this entire crop of like the next generation if it wasn't for Williams. Like Williams kind of re-brought Hollywood back into like, hey, you guys are this is the right way, not the right way, but this is
a way that you can make a score.
Yeah, this is a valid way to score a film. It doesn't just have to be like a Taylor Swift song today, like whatever's hot on the charts. Like it doesn't have to be this weird like fucking corporate like, well, we know this is popular, so if we put this in our movie,
it'll be popular.
Like it's like so like, you know, there's a like 10 15 guys that are like wonderful all-time great, you know, composers of the last 50 years. Like those dudes probably don't do it if not for John.
The symphonic way of doing music scores probably would have died out if not for John.
Yeah.
Like it may not have died out like right away like the 70s or 80s, but by the 90s or turn of the century it probably would have been gone.
Yeah.
So, but the story goes that Lucas meets John Williams, talks to him about Star Wars, and then they go their separate ways for a little bit. And Williams is like, yeah, I think I'm going to do A Bridge Too Far. This Star Wars, man, like it's not going to be anything.
Yeah.
But A Bridge Too Far, like that has the stars, and that seems like it's going to be a bigger movie. And Spielberg told him, no, do Star Wars, and actually convinced him. So it's because of Spielberg. Like I've always heard the story that Spielberg introduced John Williams to George Lucas. I've always heard that story.
Yeah.
But I've never heard the story that
he thumbed the scale.
That Williams went to Lucas, came back, and was still like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do this other movie, A Bridge Too Far.
Yeah.
It's a World War II movie. It's got you know all these big stars in it. Like it's going to be great.
And Star Wars fails without Williams.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, Lucas has openly said that. He's like all this stuff, he's like 50% of it's me, 50% of it's John. Yeah. And like for a filmmaker and a visionary like Lucas, like that's giving a lot of credit to someone else, which a lot of guys don't do. So good on him for that. But he's right though. Like again, today, put that on your list of like when you get home or whatever, pull up, you know, Throne Room, A New Hope scene, no music, and just watch.
I don't know if I want to, because it's my favorite Star Wars movie. I don't want to ruin it.
No, because then you'll always see it with music, but
I'll appreciate it better.
Just one time to see it, like what does it look like? Because it's just so much of Star Wars is the music. Like, you know, like we've kind of like circled around it, but it's like Star Wars is kind of. We're
gonna get there.
Yeah,
we're gonna get
but
there.
It's just like that's like it's like Spielberg never utilized John the way that Lucas did. Like, you know, Spielberg, there was always more of a balance where it's like, you know, not to say he underused John Williams, not at all, but like Lucas was like almost over in a lot of people's mind overscored Star Wars. Like when you really pay attention to it, Star Wars has got more music than most movies do. There's scenes where like other movies would have dropped the music and you would just have scenes where it's just dialogue and sound effects. Like, no, there's like
there's music
nuts,
in
man.
Almost every single scene.
Yeah.
The big thing is that with Star Wars that I was going to say is that Spielberg talked about this, is that you're talking about Lucas and Williams being 50-50 for Star Wars. What Spielberg talked about in this documentary that he would do is he would go to Williams and he would say, hey, I want this scene to be this. I want it to be dramatic and jarring and moving, or I want this to be sad, and I want this to be thoughtful, and I want the people to feel this way. And Williams, a lot of what Spielberg said is a lot of composers would push back and be like, no, that's not what we're doing. That's not what the music's doing here at this point.
Yeah.
Williams would be like, yeah, okay, give me a couple hours.
Yeah.
Give me a couple days, you know?
Yeah.
And he would go home and he would write it and he would play it for Spielberg, and it would be exactly what Spielberg wanted.
Even if he didn't know it.
Even if he didn't know it, that's what Spielberg, because that's what happened with Jaws. Spielberg didn't realize that's what he wanted or needed, because that was the thing, is like the shark didn't work.
Yeah.
Like that's
Bruce,
the famous story, is that Bruce the shark didn't work on the set of Jaws. And so that's why we ended up with the movie that we did, is because
thank God it didn't work.
I know.
Can you imagine
seeing the shark all the freaking time in that movie, instead of the way that it's like creepy and you see it like 5 times on
very little, yeah. Did I'm trying to think, like I just blanked.
No, I want to keep talking about Star Wars though. So when we get to Star Wars, Lucas and Williams, like you said, it's more of like a 50-50. Like Lucas is like, okay, well, what's the music doing here, John? Well, it's doing this. He's like, I got to rewrite this scene.
Yeah.
And he did that. Lucas admitted that in this documentary. He's like, yeah, I changed things to match John's music.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, like you said, as much as Star Wars is Lucas,
yeah,
you also got to put Star Wars is also Williams.
So there's a podcaster that's he actually works at Lucasfilm, but he's like super into like film scores and stuff, and he does it's called the Soundtrack Show, and the predecessor to his podcast called the Soundtrack Show is he guest starred for years on a Star Wars podcast, and they called those episodes Star Wars Oxygen, and basically the premise is that the oxygen of Star Wars is John Williams music.
Yeah,
Like without it, everything dies. Like it is the
100% agreeing with that.
yeah. No, the one I was thinking of is did that have the thing with Indiana Jones where he gave Spielberg two options, and Spielberg's like both?
Yeah, yeah.
Like the Indiana Jones scenes, we know it. There's actually one, he thought that was you got option A or option B, and Spielberg's like do both, and then he merged them together to make the thing that we know. Yeah. Yeah, that's great stuff. But it's with the Star Wars one though. That was definitely my introduction. Is
through Star Wars,
yeah.
obviously.
But obviously, I mean, just everything else. I mean, Spielberg and Lucas, raised me from a pop culture sense. I mean, you got James Cameron and some other guys in there, but it's like Spielberg and Lucas were massive, and like Williams is all over both of those guys' stuff. So it's like,
well, it's also like what you talked about is that. When you couldn't watch movies, when you couldn't watch TV, what were you doing? Well, you were listening to John Williams.
Yeah.
When it got to that point in your life where you had a portable CD player, a Walkman, kind of thing. So
yeah.
But also your dad was a big fan too, right, of Star Wars. So like
Star Wars, yeah.
he would listen to the Star Wars music. No,
it was mostly me on that.
Just you? Okay.
For sure, it was mostly me on the music side.
Okay.
My dad was into Star Wars, and he like tape recorded the movie and like listened to it when he was a kid. But
but it was more for like the movie than the music.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas me, it became a thing where it's like the music is as much as is as much for me as the movies themselves a lot of times. So, and they always just get better too. It's like even the people that hated on the prequels, like you can't tell me the prequels are not fucking just incredible scores.
I would not put it past. The scores. Yes, sorry. I thought you were saying something else.
No, the scores. Like,
I mean, you got Duel of Fates, which is just
Across the Stars, incredible. Battle of the Heroes. There's some incredible stuff.
Oh yeah,
incredible stuff.
And the other thing that I realized with Star Wars that Williams is very responsible for is character themes.
Yeah.
Like I never thought about that before. That like each character has a theme.
Yeah.
And then we get to Harry Potter, and there was someone there who's like, oh my god, I got a John Williams theme.
Yeah.
Like that's my theme. Like it's my character's theme. I think it was Harry Potter. But they were talking about it. It's like how much of a honor that is to have a John Williams theme. Yeah. And I know you haven't seen the Harry Potter films. But I will
2025
it's going to happen. But I will tell you John Williams stuff is beloved for Harry Potter, and it is still widely considered as one of the best things this century. Like,
I've listened to the scores.
Oh yeah, you had it playing when I walked in today. I'm like, oh, fitting that you're having John Williams. You're like, yeah, what is it? Oh, yep, Harry Potter. So yeah, and then just for a fun little tidbit, tell the folks on the podcast what happens when you listen to John Williams on Spotify.
Your little progress bar turns into a lightsaber.
That's awesome, right?
And honestly, they do good with their whatever fucking programming they have on that. Because I've done, even on my 97s, which my 97 ones I ripped onto my computer ages ago. I've had it on every computer.
These are compact discs.
These are discs, yeah, but I've ripped them onto my computer, and then you could upload rip stuff to Spotify, like locally, and then you could like download it onto your phone to where you could have it on the go and shit. But it's all only owned by you. But even with those, shows the lightsaber. I've looked at like, there's some brilliant people out there that do remixes of things, and they do their own versions of like, like epic version of like the Imperial March or whatever. Like even those they show it. Like
the one that I heard from that is there's an Imperial March where there's an electric guitar.
Yeah.
Added in.
Yeah, anything. Yeah.
Just the normal Imperial March, but then someone put in a badass guitar with it.
Interesting bit of
you're saying the Spotify recognizes that as Star Wars.
Yeah, I've never played a single thing that's slightly Star Wars that hasn't done it. So it's like whatever they've got programming wise, they've got it nailed down.
That's cool.
Bit of trivia though. Do you know that John Williams used electric guitar in Star Wars?
Did he really? What part?
Attack of the Clones.
Really?
Yeah, I don't remember how much of it made it into the movie, but when you go listen to the soundtrack, it's during the Zam Wessel chase at the very beginning of the film.
Oh yeah.
There's a part where like
assassin chase, yeah.
there's a part where like the symphonic like drops a bit and you hear
Yeah, it's in the It's in the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, John, you're using an electric guitar.
Son of a bitch. That is.
It
Yeah.
just doesn't feel like it should be a thing, but it is. It's there and it works. So
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of cool, how about the fact that his son was the lead singer of Toto?
yeah,
Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
They dropped that on me in the documentary, and I'm like, what? I
Yeah,
felt the raids down in Africa was John Williams' son this whole time, and I didn't know it?
yeah, it's good stuff.
Dude, that blew my mind.
Yeah,
I could not believe that.
yeah. Good stuff. E.T. also, when you were talking earlier
man.
about Lucas, like rechanging scenes, there's a famous scene with the tail into E.T., the crescendo, right? The bike
Yeah.
chase and stuff. And like John was just fucking getting his ass kicked. He just could not time things right. He couldn't get the music he had written just would not jive with like the moments with the boys on the bikes and stuff. It wasn't working. And Spielberg's there and he's like, John, just turn the screen off. He's like, see if that works or whatever. Turn the screen off, did it, felt better about it, but then turned the screen on and it just still didn't jive. And he's just like, I don't know what to do here. And Spielberg's like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll just edit the movie around your music.
Oh, that's so good. See, that's the thing that I hear so much about in Hollywood is butting heads and no, this is my music, this is my movie, you're going to do what I say. No, this is my music, we're going to do it my way, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But just to hear John be like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, let me change that.
Yeah.
And then to hear Spielberg come back and do the same thing for him on E.T. That's just
And that's generally like, I don't want to say it's uncouth, but generally when a composer's coming in, like the film is locked and like there's a lot of people that are like kind of like you're beholden to that, right? Like that becomes a thing where it's like your run time. Like there's a lot of stuff. Once you lock it, like it's locked for a reason. Like you don't give it to the composer till it's locked because you don't want to start fucking fiddling with shit while the composer's trying to write music. There's other things involved too, special effects. There's all kinds of different stuff. So like it was something for Spielberg to say we'll re-edit it because it had been locked at that point.
That's what I'm saying. That's huge to be like, no, we'll change the film and edit it around your music and make it fit. Because your music's amazing.
Yeah.
Like that's just a testament to how much Spielberg respects John Williams' music.
Yeah. I went to our Utah Symphony did a John Williams night. It was the 6th. It was the last weekend before I came back to work after my break for the holidays.
Like the 4th or 5th of January.
Yeah, so it was like early January.
Because Tuesday was the 7th. I know that my wife's birthday. So.
But yeah, so I went to that. I won a trivia contest.
You won a trivia contest?
Yeah, I got a little gift card I won here, $15 to Salt Lake Brewing Company. So
hey,
yeah,
coffee. All right.
No, it's a brewing like beer.
Oh, you got some beer going.
It's like a what do you call that? Like a distilleries for whiskey. Brewery, yeah. And they're also opening one by the mall over here, so it's
by
nice.
Valley Fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
So but they had this trivia contest, and I'm like, they're like, oh, come do a trivia contest. I'm like, let's go see.
You're like the guy who pulls out his own pool cue after
So not only did I win,
hustle, that's the word I was looking for. You hustled them.
Not only did I win said contest, they had 10 questions. I got 8 right. The next closest person got 6 right. But I was right and they were wrong with the questions.
You fucking corrected them.
So they said, what are the 3 scores for John Williams for Tom Cruise movies? The only reason I didn't throw a fit is because I could only think of 2. I couldn't think of the third. But it's like, I forget which, War of the Worlds, because I'm like, it was Spielberg, so of course Williams did that. And I'm like, I know Born on the 4th of July. I couldn't think of the third. Now, lo and behold, it turns out there's 4 of them, and she only had 3, and she didn't have Born on the 4th of July. The only reason I didn't throw a fit is because, 1, I won handily, and 2, I didn't have a third one anyway, so it's not like it turned me from a correct answer to a false answer. Like I only have, but yeah, she was like, no, I only have Empire of the Sun, Minority Report, which I didn't have either, and then
War of the Worlds.
And I'm like, well, no, Born on the 4th of July. I'm like, I've listened to that score a number of times, and I wouldn't have listened to it if it wasn't for it being John Williams.
Yeah.
And I didn't fight it, but then afterwards, immediately after it ended, I looked it up. I'm like, yeah, it was, and there's 4 of them. But I didn't have the other one, so I didn't care, and then I also won. But yeah, so not only did I win, but I
What was the other question that you missed? Do you remember?
I think it was.
What year was he born?
No, it was. It was. The problem is they did two. They did one that was more personal and the one that was more about the work.
Yeah.
And I think what it may have been was it was either how many times does the Harry Potter, the Hedwig's theme play in the first movie? And I'm like,
yeah, I've never seen
I'm like, I've never seen the fucking movie. I've listened to the
Yeah.
score a number of times. I'm like, I didn't listen. I've never seen the movie. So
Yeah.
I just threw a number and whatever.
That's so funny that the main Harry Potter theme is Hedwig's theme
Yeah.
because that's a fucking owl.
Oh, as I say, is that little troll guy?
Hedwig, no, that's Dobby is the
Oh.
little house elf is
Little
what it's
creature.
called. Yeah, Hedwig is literally fucking Harry Potter's owl, white snowy owl. Hedwig is a fucking owl, and that's the
That's the
main
most
theme.
iconic
That's
theme.
the most iconic theme. That's the Harry Potter theme is Hedwig's theme.
Yeah.
So that's just funny to me. Like, all right, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff. Chris Columbus obviously worked with him with Home Alone, and then that obviously carried over into getting him, on the Harry Potter stuff, which is pretty cool.
They Spielberg also talked about. I thought this was fascinating. He talked about how he doesn't like to do sequels.
Yeah.
And he's done 9 Star Wars.
Yeah.
He's like, but
those
he
are all
did,
one.
he did talk about it. He's like, Star Wars is mine. I didn't want someone else coming in and changing it, especially with like themes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because like that was one of the great things they talked. J.J. Abrams was one of the people being interviewed. They talked about how with John Williams, how he you brought characters back. So you had the Leia theme and the
Han and Leia
the
theme.
Force theme with Luke.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Luke's theme is the Force theme.
Yeah.
And everything. So like all these old themes are coming back into the movie, but also at the same time you get new ones. And they played Rey's theme, and I instantly thought of you because the movie came out in 2015.
2015. Yeah.
So 2014 was the year of Tad not fucking doing a goddamn thing except watching the trailer and listening to the soundtrack. Like, and the thing was,
Well,
those didn't come out until November, December.
No, I think they released like a song maybe because
They released Rey's theme early.
Yeah, because generally speaking, my rule is I won't listen to a score before the movie,
Right.
Especially Star Wars, because I'm like,
That's part of the movie. That's like 50% of the movie.
I don't want to. Now I've cheated a few times and listened to a little bit of
Yeah.
if they pre-release Rey's theme months in advance, like I might listen to it, but like maybe once or twice. But I wouldn't want to like go overboard. But like I remember, usually the soundtracks would come out like a week or so before the movie, and like, dude, it is so hard, especially now with like Spotify and stuff, because it's like
right.
it's
and,
one-
and it even gives you like a notification too. It's like,
Yeah.
hey Tad, by the way, Star Wars Episode 10's music dropped today, and you're like, I have a week until this film comes out.
Yeah,
Like, you
that's
son of a bitch.
That's fucking brutal, man.
Yeah.
that is some brutal
But
stuff.
I just remember Tad all through 2014 because we got a teaser in the summer.
No, Black Friday.
But was it really? Oh, that's the first time we
That
saw
was,
anything.
that was over a year before the film.
Oh, a year before. That's right.
Yeah,
I was thinking.
Black Friday 14 was that trailer
right.
with the BB-8 and the
BB-8. I just remember, I literally watched Tad for maybe an hour, maybe it was a little bit less than that. Maybe it was a half hour, but I remember him. I don't know if you learned it or if you showed. I think you showed me that you can literally go frame by frame on YouTube by hitting like the comma,
Yeah.
and the period button. Like you can go forward and back
Frame by
And
frame,
I just
yeah.
remember him going frame by frame, not once, not twice, like 5 or 6 times. Because the big thing is like we've talked about this before. I mean, we're both huge Star Wars fans. Tad has been a Star Wars fan not longer than I have, but he's been more faithful. I fell off of Star Wars in junior high. I came back in high school. It was only a few years I was gone. But I didn't see Episode 1 in theaters because of that.
Yeah.
Tad saw Episode 1 in theaters 19 times. It's now 20.
Yeah.
I remember things.
Revenge of the Sith this year, I hope.
Revenge
That
of the
better
Sith
be in
this year.
theaters, man.
Dude, it better be.
Also, still pissed. The score for Revenge of the Sith
Yeah.
does not have the war drums in the opening song.
The boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
Because that's part of the score.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the score doesn't have that. It has the rest of the music, but those fucking war drums are not on the goddamn
That's
score.
not right.
That's bugged
That's
me.
so good when you watch
bugged
that.
me for 20 years.
We need to figure out a way to dub that. Like, have someone made a version of it where you can just like swap it out.
Yeah, put the drums in there. Come on, give it to me.
Like, come on. My last question that I have for you, and then I'll just let you kind of go for the last little bit, because I know I've been kind of bogarting this episode, even though it's your favorite topic, one of your favorite things. During the documentary, they talked about how John guest conducted Star Wars. Sorry, one second.
The Hollywood Bowl stuff.
The Hollywood Bowl
yeah,
stuff.
he does that.
And
yearly.
then they did. Well, no, they did one at the Anaheim Stadium back in the late 70s.
Yeah.
77, 78, and he guest conducted.
Yeah.
The Star Wars portion of it. Music of Space, or something like that is what it was called. And it got me thinking, like, there's that famous question that if you could go back and see a live performance, Live Aid, or what's the famous one with Queen?
Woodstock, Live Aid.
It's Live Aid with Queen?
Yeah.
Woodstock, Metallica in Russia, where there was supposed to be 1 million people at that airbase.
Yeah.
Rock in Rio with Iron Maiden. Is there a John Williams one that you have like looked at and you're like, that would be my John Williams one?
Not necessarily performance like that. Now, if I could be in the studio when he's actually scoring for the first time, like, I don't know if you've, like, because they, like, the Disney Plus did that Peter Jackson documentary with the Beatles.
Yeah.
And it's literally them writing that record, and it's, like, so interesting to watch, like, the process happening. And it's
Sure.
like, you know, like Spielberg and Lucas that sat in those rooms watching John, like, compose the film. Like
we see Spielberg recording part of it.
Let me go back in time and go sit in on something like that.
Like a recording session.
You know, it might be frustrating because it's like, I know how it goes, and I'd be like, oh, you're almost there.
Stay on target.
Couple notes off there, you know.
Stay on target.
Yeah, but I'd probably do something more like that. I will say, though, one of my absolute favorite memories was Celebration in 2019 or 17, because
it was before Last Jedi.
Because
right?
I went with in 15 and 17, and
and Last Jedi came out in 2018, right?
No, 17.
17.
It was that year.
Oh, it was before,
It was-
before.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Because that's where I think they announced the title. They had the first teaser trailer, all that kind of stuff. But that one largely felt like almost awake because Carrie had just passed away at the end of 2016.
Right.
So, and she was always famous for the Star Wars Celebration stuff. There's very few people that were as plugged into the fandom, even during the darker times of Star Wars. Not dark like it was bad, but just like Star Wars was not as popular in the 90s and early 2000s until like the prequels came out. Like there was a revitalization of Star Wars. Like in those era when like, you know, Star Wars Celebration was like maybe 1,000 people would show up. Like not 50, 60,000 that show up now. Like it was a different thing. There's two people that are famous that were loyal throughout the entire thing, and it's Carrie Fisher and Peter Mayhew. Like now, there's some minor people that
would be there every other year, every
like
3 years.
An Ewok or some random Ewok actor or some pilot. Like, but like your big people, like the ones that like
actually had their names in the
on the poster.
Yeah,
you know, like Mark Hamill. No, like you know, just largely, you know, Harrison Ford never pretty much. But it's like Carrie and Peter were big with that. So it's like Celebration. There's a connection to those two. So like being there that year was whatever. But the opening thing I stick because it was back in the day you'd get in the queue lines, and I spent the night because I always remember thinking to myself, why do I even get a hotel room for that first night, because I'm basically spending the night in line, you know, for the opening panel or whatever. And I remember I was laying there and I was like thinking through different things, whatever, and I'm like, I bet you Harrison Ford will be here because he was supposed to be in 15 for The Force Awakens, but there was that plane incident,
the plane crash, and he got hurt
where he no, it wasn't a crash, he had like landed on like a freeway or something. It didn't hurt him, it was just like I thought
he hurt his foot.
No, he got hurt on the set.
Oh, that's what I'm mixing up. Yeah.
But either way, he had like this whole kerfuffle, and I'm like, I bet you they probably had him contracted to come to Celebration and stuff, and he couldn't do it. So I'm like, I wonder if there'll be like a make good and he'll show up. I was right because he turned out to be there. And like, you know, in my mind, I'm like, you know, I think I had heard that Lucas was going to be there because it was like whatever. And so my Harrison Ford and that, whatever, Hayden ended up being there, which is really cool. He got a really good ovation. But it was like middle of the night. I'm like laying there on a fucking concrete floor with a pillow and a fucking backpack, you know, just like a homeless person.
Yep.
And I was just like, what if John Williams was here?
That'd be so cool.
And, you know, so I get in, have the panel. Lucas is up there. They bring Harrison out. Harrison gets the loudest cheer. Second loudest went to Hayden Christensen, which was really cool.
Yes.
Lucas had a pretty big one. Stuff. Had this whole interview and stuff. Like, all right, you know, the panel's wrapping up. He's like, but we got a surprise for you. Curtain off to the side of the thing lifts up. Small orchestra there with John Williams. Starts with the Leia theme. because again, that's what's on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and reveled at the fact that I'm watching John Williams compose in the same room as, or not compose, but conduct,
yeah,
in the same room. Like I'm getting chills because it's just that's a lifetime memory.
That's like a core memory for you.
Yeah, that's just nothing will beat that. Like meeting people, whatever, but seeing John Williams conduct, and I know there's thousands or millions of people potentially over the years have gone to these Hollywood Bowls and stuff, but it's like I don't live in these places,
Right.
He was connected to the Boston Pop for a long time, so he'd do shit there. But it's like me living in Utah, I don't really have access to any of that. So now I've definitely thought over the years, like maybe I should go to the Hollywood Bowl.
Right.
But that was just a very happy accident. I just remember in the middle of the night, it was probably 2 a.m. or something. I'm just laying there uncomfortable and shit, listening to a bunch of fucking nerds doing lightsaber battles all night. Not quietly. Dude, like it was like Fight Club. There was like fucking a ball, like a ring of 30 something people with like 2 in the middle, and they were like going full fucking ham with their shit, and they were just doing like a fucking tournament. Middle of the night, where people are trying to sleep, but it's like I get it, whatever. But it's like annoying as shit. But it just dawned on me. I'm like, I wonder if John would be here. I'm like, I'm not gonna trust a hope because he has forsaken these lands. But yeah, it turned out to be the case. So. Incredible.
You were on point for that one for hunches. You had Harrison and John both.
Yeah, because
hunches.
Harrison made sense because I'm like, they would have had a contract because it's like that's his movie, right? The Force Awakens was largely Harrison's,
right?
And then Last Jedi was largely Mark's movie, like whatever. And I'm like, they're just, I bet you he would, and I was at 15 as well, so I'm like, and I think they maybe even mentioned like, well, Harrison was going to be here, but. Y'all saw the news, like he's had some issues, he can't make it.
Yeah.
So, so it was just one of those things where I'm like, the way these contracts work, I don't know if it's just a matter of like, oops, you had an oopsie, so you're out of your contract. Or
we're not going to pay you for that little bit. No, you're going to make it up to us, motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. So, not that it made a lot of sense for him to be there and talk about. Not that it made
what we say.
Yeah, not that it made the most sense, but it was cool. Also, I wanted to throw up on the screen.
Yeah.
If I got the thing here. I did get my little chart made that we talked about.
Oh, you did make the chart. This is John Williams' multi-collaborators, all the different directors that he worked with.
Yeah, for more than one, because there's a
one.
shitload of names that he did one movie
Just
with.
one-offs with.
So, yeah.
So he did 28 with Steven Spielberg, 5 with Chris, only 4 for George Lucas.
Yeah, because he didn't direct Empire Strikes Back and
That's fair.
Return of the
That's
Jedi.
fair.
That's one of those.
And then he didn't direct 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
yeah, that's one of those ones where you're like, you probably could beat somebody in bar trivia if they were nerds, and you're like, how many
George Lucas
films has John Williams composed?
9.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. You
No,
are.
sir. You didn't say the magic word.
Yeah. So Chris Columbus has Lucas beat. That's pretty wild.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did the first 3 Harry Potters and then Home Alone.
Home Alone. Well, he's got 5. I'm not sure what
what's the other one then.
Was he? Did he only do 3 Harry Potters?
He only did 3 Harry Potters. I think he stopped after the 3rd one.
Yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head. I have the list somewhere, but I just made this graphic. Also, Oliver Stone coming in clutch of 3. That's pretty great. And then Spielberg though with 28.
Home Alone 1 and 2.
Oh, duh.
Yeah.
Idiots. We're both idiots.
Both idiots.
But yeah, it's just hilarious to me that Spielberg is just so resoundingly.
Yeah. And then I had it written down. Let me pull it back up. I accidentally just closed it. I had how many of Spielberg's films were done. The only ones that were not done.
Yeah.
This is
not many.
This is everything in all of Spielberg's
50-something-year career
since 1974, Sugarland Express. Technically, there's one prior to that. It's Twilight Zone the movie, which came out
84.
No, I swear there was one. It's like
because he did score Spielberg's section of Twilight Zone in 84.
83, sorry.
Or 83.
No, it was 83. Okay, so I deleted the year on accident for some reason. So yeah, the Twilight Zone the movie, he did score the part with Spielberg, but he didn't score the entire movie.
No, because it
doesn't count.
It was split between 3 or 4 filmmakers,
right.
And yeah, John just did Spielberg's.
Right.
So,
but the other movies that Spielberg has done that has not been composed by John Williams: The Color Purple,
okay.
Bridge of Spies, Ready Player One, and West Side Story 2021.
And I think most of those there was like a scheduling conflict. Like it's not a matter of like John didn't want to do it or Spielberg didn't want John. Like it's usually like I bet if you went and lined those up, you'd find like, oh, there was a Star Wars movie that year. Or there's something like that. So
85. We have Indiana Jones.
Maybe
if I
Indiana.
remember right.
No, not 85 is not an Indiana Jones year.
Isn't it?
89. No. 80,
Was it Back to the Future?
He didn't do
Back to the
Back
Future.
to the Future. No,
Okay.
that was I blank, but definitely not John. Feels kind of John-ish though, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't have to look. It's one of those things that generally speaking, it's a pretty good rule that a Spielberg film's going to have a John
1985 was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Really? I didn't think there was one the year we were born.
Yeah, 85. Indiana Jones comes out later than Star Wars. So
Yeah,
it's like
but
83 is Empire.
I thought
Return of the Jedi.
it framed our year because what was the first Indiana Jones? For 81?
Raiders of the Lost Ark was 1980.
No, 80's Empire Strikes Back.
Raiders of the Lost Ark was 81.
81, yeah.
81.
Yeah.
So 85 was Temple of Doom, and then we have. I mean, there's only a few of them, so we can go through it real quick. That's the color purple. So 2015.
2015's Force Awakens.
Yep. There you
So
go.
yeah, you got
That's an easy one. 2018.
God, 2019 was the Rise of Skywalker, so it's not that. I don't know on 19.
Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom.
I don't know if he scored that though.
Composer theme music. Oh,
Yeah, just the
it would
music.
just be the main
because
theme.
because they reuse his theme. So, yeah, no.
2017 he was doing The Post,
And he did the Last Jedi.
and The Last Jedi was 17. So maybe that's what just kept him from doing it in
Yeah,
2018.
yeah.
And then we have,
I mean, the man might want to take a day off here and there.
and then 2021.
He did the Fablesman around then, didn't he?
At that point, he was kind of retired too, wasn't he?
He retired for like 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that didn't last.
But yeah.
But yeah. Also,
It's very hard to look at his Internet Movie Database because there's nothing but fucking Star Wars on here. Star Wars: The Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Star Wars: Dark Lord, Rise of
Yeah,
Darth Vader.
'cause
Star Wars: Tales of the Jedi. Anything Star Wars has him because it's fucking Star Wars.
yeah, because it's you're going to use his stuff. I do want to read a quote that I have here,
Yeah.
and this is the one I want to design a T-shirt for or get someone to design for
yeah.
me. So this is a Spielberg thing. I think they did a Lifetime Achievement Award for John, and of course,
it's one of a kind, is what it said. I was reading that on some trivia.
I really want to get that on streaming somewhere because I'd love it. Because I feel like they do those things and they've recorded them because they show them on TV, but it's like, put those things on streaming somewhere. Let me go back and watch.
Go back and watch it.
Let me go watch the Spielberg one. Let me go watch the Lucas one. Like they're like
Look up the Oscars that year because apparently they put out a lot of videos of that. Because I was looking at John Williams stuff on the Oscars, like he didn't win for this. Well, what did win? So I went to their website and they have the clips of like, here's the nominees, here's the winners thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so if it's an achievement award, maybe it's there.
Well, it's a different. I don't know if it's the Academy that does the Lifetime
okay.
Achievements Awards, but it's like one of those like red curtain places. Like it looks like the Oscars, but then it's like it could turn almost into a roast depending on who goes up there. But then everyone goes and just gives a tribute. It's kind of a nicety thing. But Spielberg during that though said, without John Williams, bikes don't fly, nor do brooms in Quidditch matches, nor do men in red capes. There is no force. Dinosaurs do not walk the earth. We do not wonder. We do not weep. We do not believe.
That's a great quote.
So it really is, yeah, and it's the truth. Like all of those things, like like the Jurassic Park is how much better because of the theme.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was one too. I almost missed. One of the trivia questions was, when's the first time you hear the Jurassic Park theme? Like, what are you seeing on screen? And like,
It's a helicopter.
that was my first thought.
It's not?
It's the Brontosaurus. It's the first time you hear the Jurassic Park theme is the Brachiosaurus.
No, you hear the theme when they're flying into the...
Not the main theme.
The island.
No, it's not the main theme you hear.
No,
No, that's the main theme is the Brontosaurus, and but before, before the end, before she ended up like ending the thing, I was like a few questions later, I'm like,
Wait.
Oh no! I'm like, no, it's the
Trick question!
I'm like, it's the Brontosaurus. I went and erased it and wrote it in.
You're
I'm
like, you tried to get me.
you almost bamboozled me, lady. But I don't know. But yeah, good stuff. I love John Williams. Like it's, I was gonna make a list of like essential John Williams.
Make a Spotify playlist and then we'll share it.
Yeah, I was going to do that and maybe put it in the comments. The only thing I will say, though, of course, Spotify is going to run an installer right now, so I can open it. I will say I was like telling myself, like, keep restrained. Don't go too nuts.
Ted, go nuts.
But no, it ended up being quite a lot longer. Let me sort this alphabetical so I could find it. John... Oh man, I'm not gonna be able to find it now. It ended up being quite extensive.
Yeah,
and I was trying to hold back, but like,
don't hold back, Ted.
how could you not? I mean,
give in to the dark side.
Yeah, I can't find it now, but I made it.
That's okay.
I think I might do it for a future episode though, where I'll try to get something a little bit more. But there's a lot of stuff out there. I know one of John's all-time favorites is E.T. And that's a great one because like there's like allusions to the theme the whole time, and there's like this build, but
then you finally get it.
Don't let it. He doesn't let it crescendo until the bike flying, which
Yeah.
is the end of the fucking movie. So like, I don't know, like that's an incredible one. I mean, we've talked about a lot. Schindler's List is one of the most beautiful things ever made. All the Star Wars stuff is great. I think at some point what we're gonna have to do is make like a list of for each, like, you know, what we love. Like mine will be obviously harder, but like you could easily come up with a top 10 list of John Williams stuff, like just, you know.
I'll say that's the problem for me is like I don't know what's what. Like you're like, name 5 John Williams things: Jaws, Star Wars, and Indiana Jones. But okay, but which Star Wars?
No.
Okay.
It can even just be like, what is your? It doesn't have to be super deep. It could just be a matter of like, I love the Jurassic Park theme. I love the, you know, like whatever. We can maybe do that at some point. But yeah, it's I don't know. John Williams is great. His 93rd birthday is in a week from today,
which is fitting. Why we're one of the reasons why I wanted to do it is that we're celebrating him. And then you had that scare last year with him too. That was funny. Where you saw his name popping up all over Twitter.
Yeah, it was like the number one
that.
trending thing. It was
You're like, oh god, no!
I think it was for his birthday.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's always scary when a 90-something-year-old person is the top trending topic on Twitter because that's
You're
usually
like, no, not him.
Yeah, it's usually
You're like, no, don't take John from me.
But it's a reality that, you know, it's
gonna
happen at some point because we're much closer to the end of his life, sadly, than not. But he's lived a kingly life, and he's revolutionized or re-revolutionized film back to symphonic scores. He's left a mark. I mean, I would easily say he's the greatest composer of all time, but I would also say that he's the greatest American composer outside of film. I would say there's not been a better, you know, musician.
Do you think
classical?
So like even over like the classics back in the day, Beethoven, Mozart, Bach,
Well, a lot of those aren't American.
Oh,
so.
yeah, I know, but where would you rank him with those?
That's kind of hard. I mean,
I honestly would put him above it because of the lasting impression that he's going to leave on society with film.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is I thought it was Peter's final thought. I thought it was so funny that like the symphonies would look like what you mentioned. He did like the Boston Pops symphony.
Yeah, and that all went to
how
shit
they
for a
all
bit.
like looked down on him because he was a film composer. It's
Yeah.
just like, are you fucking kidding me?
That's only actually changed in the last I think that since the turn of the century.
That's so dumb
I think
to me.
It's in the 2000s that it started to be a thing where like
he's making it so you people have work. Like,
yeah,
come on.
But I mean, even like I feel like it's only been in the last even like 8 to 10 years that like the Utah Symphony would do like a sci-fi geek night or an evening with John Williams. They wouldn't have done that even in like I think even like 2005-ish, around the time we graduated. They wouldn't have touched it.
No.
They would have been like, no, fuck that. We're doing like Mahler or Beethoven or Bach.
But now they realize that, oh shit, people will actually show up for this and we can make some money off of it.
Yeah, exactly. And you're getting a whole different audience.
You actually bought us tickets to the Utah Symphony to go see a Nightmare Before Christmas for my wife, who's a huge fan. So that was awesome.
Yeah, I think I've been to at least 2 or 3 nights that would have featured Williams. Either it was Foley Him or it was like there was one where it was like hand in hand with the Comic Con. It was the same weekend as a Comic Con, and they did like a sci-fi, and they had Deanna Troy's actor came, and she was like the narrator, and they did a bunch of different stuff. But like I think 75% of it was John Williams.
Yep.
So
because that's what.
Yeah, exactly. And then like I remember one time me and Hayden went to one up in like Park City. There was like one up at like the Deer Valley.
Yeah,
and like all the like folding chairs out on like a nice
amphitheater, yeah.
like not even that. It was like not even like real. It was like a stage with like grass, and so you had
Yeah.
like rent chairs and stuff. And it was
Yeah.
like, and like yeah, it was John Williams. I remember Hayden being like, after a bit, he's like, you know what? I'm actually starting to kind of like hear like similarities. He's like, I've never really like heard like the John Williams sound because I've always just heard him in like a
individual settings
Yeah.
in their own little environment.
yeah, but it's like when you hear like a string of them and you spend 2 hours listening, he's like, oh, I'm starting to kind of hear like what his style is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was cool because I'm like, I've always had that in my head, and it's cool to see.
Yeah,
other
I could play a
people-
random song and you'd be like, yeah, that's John Williams. Or no, it's not.
Yeah,
Probably.
exactly. Unless someone's really good at, like I said, the Back to the Futures one, I think is one of the ones that's like, it doesn't feel entirely like John, but it's so close.
You're
that I
like,
could see why
hey.
people would confuse it because I
Yeah.
hear that all the time. We're like, oh, John's great with Back to the Future.
You're like, nope.
No. But yeah, that is it for this episode. Happy birthday in a week to John.
Yeah.
And hopefully lives to 150.
Absolutely. He should be the one that breaks the age record.
Yes, let's get him to Methuselah. Was
Exactly.
it the Bible where they say that dude lived like 900 years? Like
Something like that, yeah.
He should be Yoda's age.
Yeah.
Um,
When 900 years you reach, compose you will not.
But yeah, if you want to reach out to the show, you can send an email to peter@geekeryabides.com or tad@geekeryabides.com. Tad is TADD. And then I've lost the slide. Son of a bitch. I don't know where the hell it went. But either way, I don't have the slide apparently. It is not in line where it should be. But the next episode is Captain America Brave New World. That comes out between now and our next episode.
Like 2 days before our next episode.
Yeah, so we will be seeing that and then talking about it. I really don't know where my next time on. So yeah, that'll be the next episode though. Is Captain America? I almost said the Winter Soldier.
Brave New World.
Brave New World. And
Captain America 4.
Yes, Cap 4. Can't wait for that.
Is this a different? So it's a different Captain America. So is it Captain America 2.0?
No, it's 4.
Uh-huh. You just keep going, even if we change Captain America's, huh?
Yeah, I mean James Bond, right?
I mean, that's a little bit different.
All right.
James Bond's not still alive. It's just a different actor playing the same character.
Too soon.
Oh, yeah.
He just died in the last movie. Too soon. But yeah, I'll sign off as I always do by saying love what you love, let your geek flag fly high, and to hell with anyone that says anything to you about guilty pleasures or any symphonies that want to say that playing John Williams is beneath them.
Absolutely.
To hell with them.
I'm not going to say anything funny. Go listen to John Williams.
Yeah.
Just go listen to John Williams.
Go pick something, pick a movie you love, throw it on Spotify.
I'm sure there's John Williams playlists. Go find it.
Oh yeah, there are. I've made one. I just don't know where it's at. But yes, at some point I'll share one because I think I want to try to dial one down that'll actually be like reasonable. Because I want to say the one I made ended up being like 5 hours or something.
Good Lord, Ted.
And I was holding back. So
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, we will see you guys in a fortnight where we talk about Captain America and. Not the Winter Soldier.
The Red Hulk.
Brave New World. The Red Hulk. The Red, Where's My Wife?
Where's my wife?
Or no, Where's My Family?
Where's my family?
Get off my plane. All right. We'll see you guys.
Bye, everyone.